Happy New Year. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this first regular meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, January 6th, 2025. We're going to start with an invocation by Pastor Griff Vautier, and then Supervisor Borelli is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Our Father and our God, your word says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." We recognize on this historic occasion that we are a county and also a country under God. This faith in God is our foundation and our heritage. It is for this reason that we begin this first meeting of the new year, 2025, of our Mojave County Board of Supervisors with a solemn petition for your guidance, for your wisdom, and for your influence to affect the session of our county government. Create within all of us a desire to follow your will for all our lives. As George Washington reminded us in his farewell address, morality and faith are the pillars of our society, and may we never forget that truth. We come now to a new era in our county's history. In your sovereign mercy, give this Board of Supervisors the courage, discernment, integrity, and foresight that is so essential to good government. Grant them your perspective in every situation, moral, social, and economical, that will face our county leadership in the following 12 months of this year. Help them to be mindful of the present and future needs of the residents of Mojave County. Grant them as well an awareness of their accountability to you, both now and in eternity. In times of urgency and crises, give them cool heads and warm hearts, and may your abundant blessings be upon their earnest labors for the benefit of our people. These things we humbly ask in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
Board of Supervisors may, by motion, recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorney on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, 4, and 7. Looking for a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held on January 21st, 2025 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, do have it, so ordered. Official business to come before the board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims, and demands. Attorney Esplin.
Good morning. Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee or legislative reports. Since we have 3 new board members, we'll start with Supervisor Gould. See if he has anything to report.
No reports, Mr. Chairman. I do have a point of personal privilege that the county population grew by 1 this morning. My daughter's sister-in-law gave birth to a 7-pound, 13-ounce baby boy named Gideon.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Gideon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Martin, anything to report this morning?
I have nothing this morning.
Supervisor Lettman.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Supervisor Borelli. I have nothing to report either. This morning, I think we do have a lobbyist report. Manager Alters.
I'm resending him the link. If you could just give us a moment.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to County Manager's report.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. Incoming, welcome to all of you. Thank you for the opportunity. I do have a quick report to use, Chairman Linkenfelter and Supervisor Gould. It may look a little familiar, but it has to do with the ARPA projects update. It just gives the incoming board members the latest information on where we're at with those projects. So with that, I'm asking our Chief Financial Officer to provide that update. Thank you.
Morning, Luke.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter and members of the board. If we could get the slides up on the screen, please. And as Sam mentioned, this is substantially the same as what was presented at the last board meeting, mostly for the benefit of the 3 new supervisors. So just some vital statistics as far as the ARPA funding that the county received, just over $41 million. As of the board meeting held on, and we have an additional 29 that we expect to be complete by the end of the first quarter of this calendar year, which will bring the spend to approximately 75% of the total ARPA award. And then this slide is just listing the very diverse areas that ARPA monies have impacted in the counties. And for each of the 3 new supervisors, if you do have questions about the ongoing projects within your district, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to give you a rundown on them and loop in other departments that have been working as the liaisons on those projects as well. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manager Elders. Well, I'm not sure if we have the consultant on, so we're going to go to a presentation. Presentation of the first year results from the 2024 over-the-county sale of unsold tax deeded parcels previously offered for sale at the tax deed sale on behalf of the offices of the Mojave County Clerk of the Board and Treasurer.
Good morning,
Hello.
Chairman Lingenfelter and Supervisors. Yeah, I just want to give you a brief update since we have surpassed our first year. There were 103 parcels initially on the list, and we had hoped, even if we considered even if we just sold one, that it was a success. But we did sell 16, so we did very well. And with those 16 parcels, we made almost $23,000 that goes back into the county's coffers. Those parcels go back into private ownership, back on the tax roll. It's all vacant land, so there's potential for improvements on them, which brings more tax dollars into us. So we consider it a success. The 2025 over-the-counter sale will start on April 15th. This year. We're not certain of a date yet for the tax deed sale. It will be sometime early in March, and I just want to encourage our constituents to go to the Clerk of the Board's website. No phone calls, please, because we don't have any information. And when we do, like I said, it will be early March, and it will be on the Clerk of the Board's website because, we don't have any information, so please don't bother calling. That list will include the parcels that aren't sold at the 2025 tax deed sale. That will, I'm sorry, I got a little mixed up there. The April 15th over-the-counter sale will include all of the parcels that don't sell at the 2025 tax deed sale. I want to thank the board for approving. This was just an idea that we had, hoping that we could sell some. It worked, so thank you. And Clerk Scubel and her team just does a phenomenal job helping us, and again, my special projects team as well. So, do you have any questions?
Questions from the board members? Hearing none. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Supervisor Lettman, would you like to remove any items?
Mr.
Supervisor Gould?
Number 23 and number 26, Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Borelli? Supervisor Martin?
Nothing.
I have nothing. Looking for a motion to approve consent agenda minus items 8, 23, or 23 and 26. So moved. Heard that motion? Second. Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Move to item number 8. Approve the adoption of BOS Resolution 2025-002, a petition of exception for a waiver of providing sidewalks and streetlights for Coyote Run, Tract 4176, being a proposed subdivision of assessor's parcel number 228-04-310 in the Fort Mojave vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. Supervisor Lettman.
So I had a question for Director Holtree. It had to do with the, and I looked back at the planning and zoning meeting and watched the tape on this. If you could just give us a brief explanation of, if we have a process in place that says subdivisions like this should have sidewalks and lights, why doesn't this one? And does it have something to do with other parts of the same subdivision? That's all.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, Supervisor Littman. This subdivision was originally approved for a preliminary plat in 2002, and a portion of the subdivision was created or developed in 2004. And at that time, we did not have requirements for sidewalks and streetlights. They kind of hit the recession, and so they did not do a lot of the rest of the subdivision at that time. They are now looking to continue with that subdivision. Since in 2010, we did add requirements to our land division regulations that require sidewalks and streetlights for this size of lots for the subdivision. With the subdivision already partially completed, they requested that they did not have to do the sidewalks or streetlights because the infrastructure is not already in place. Staff was in agreement that it's more of a burden to have them do sidewalks and streetlights when half the subdivision is already created without it. It ran through our division, Public Works Division. We were recommending approval. The commission also recommended approval.
Any other questions? We're looking for a motion.
I'll go ahead and move to approve item number 8 as read.
Second.
Motion second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 23, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a grant for training, and I'm curious what kind of training are we going to do with the grant?
CRS
Realize it's
management.
an emergency management grant, but I'm just kind of curious what kind of training we're doing with that.
Joey, you want to come down and explain that? Thank you.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould. This training is for community emergency response training. We actually did 2 trainings, one in Lake Havasu, one in Bullhead, where we train actually citizens to go out, do various functions, which include damage control, so forth, and so on, and then actually some response things, potentially even helping set up shelters. And what we ended up with was a residual amount that we wanted to take advantage of, that we weren't able to do a third class in the county, and so we requested an extension of the performance period. We were granted that by DEMA, and now this is what's before you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Certainly.
Any other questions? I'm looking for a motion.
To approve.
For that motion, second. For that motion, second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 26, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that with the new members on the board that they would benefit from a quick overview from maybe the county manager or his office on this Goat Hill transmitter project.
Andrew Alters.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Thank you, Supervisor Gould. Goat Hill site is north of Lake Havasu City. The county has had communication towers on that site for many, many years. It's to transmit channels, TV channels, to the area that would otherwise not have that ability. In reality, that's what the TV district, that's why the TV district was created many years ago. There is currently a tower on the site. It has been in place for quite a few years. The tower that carries many of the antennas and features has a foundation that has been compromised, literally due to wind and other natural phenomenons. We have worked with WECOM. As you know, WECOM is under contract with the county to maintain and operate our radio towers and communication towers. So we have taken quite a few steps to stabilize the integrity of the current tower. We've had professional geotechnical firms, including county staff and myself, look at the foundation. We are very concerned about the ability of this tower to withstand high wind and continue to deliver to the residents of the area. We want it to preempt any emergency repair or failure. So we've studied the area. We've come up with a design. It's ready for construction. It will provide us a brand new tower with the ability to deliver those services for several decades to come. It's truly a long-term solution. The site is very challenging. It's on a hill. It's at the top of the hill. It's hard to access. The rocks needs to be drilled into and foundation to be constructed. So the design takes all that into account, and the construction costs takes that into account as well. We wanted to make sure what we're designing is a long-term solution and will provide the reliability to the county residents in the area that depends on those services. I also have someone here from WECOM if you wish to see some photos or to ask additional questions, but this, I hope, provides you an oversight as requested by Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Manager Elters. Other questions? Any other questions?
I'd like to see the pictures of where exactly what we're talking about up there. If that's-
Okay. Yeah. Is that the representative from WECOM?
Yes,
We
Chairman,
invite
thank you.
him up to the podium.
His coming down.
Great.
Giant salesman case, too.
Good morning, Board. Congratulations, Supervisor Martin, Minnelli, and Letman for becoming our supervisors here, and I look forward to working with you. My name is Ken McLaughlin. I am the team lead for the television state signal maintenance for WECOM, which has been maintaining the towers for, I think, since the inception of the TV district in 1983. We've grown, maintained, improved, and tried to provide innovative, progressive, reliable service to the county, and most importantly, on a personal basis, to the viewers and customers. I mean, we treat them just like any other customer. And I personally have come across many people, some in this audience, who appreciate the TV district. I'd like to go ahead and answer your question, Supervisor, with the chairman, Supervisor Martin, and show you specifically what I had rolled up on after some complaints in 2022. If you look closely here, and I'll give you another shot here, this is kind of the core of the problem. And that picture basically explains what County Manager Elter's concerns. Now, you can only imagine the horror is I was the first person to show up here, and that was quite a problem, and our company spared no expense to respond at our expense to deal with this thing. We stabilized it that night, to keep it from falling down. We managed to find a crane out of Tempe, Arizona, Phoenix area to show up within 36 hours to fix that thing. And we had an easy breath when we were to sortie folks from our local Laren professional welders and all kinds of people who showed up to bring us. The only thing that kept that tower from falling down was that particular wire, which I don't want to sound dramatic or scare anybody, but it had fallen down. It probably would have not only affected our county TV district, but those other towers like AT&T, cell phone and data, and the internet providers for Lake Havasu City. I would note that the action we took, we regard that as a stabilization, and is therefore, as County Manager Elters pointed out, it is a compromised tower. And we think that it's in the best interest for all the citizens is that we have that long-term solution, move forward with the contingency fund, which I understand is set aside for things like this, and move forward with that long-term solution. And I'm open for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, anybody can answer this, I guess, who knows the answer. Are we getting any revenue, additional revenue from any other providers that's using this tower?
The stakeholders, we also have the Mojave County Sheriff's Office that is currently using the old tower and will use this new tower, and the Mojave County Road Department, Public Works uses it. I was in discussion with my management, and they wanted me to let the board know that a new tower could be a source of revenue if we were to pursue that. There'd be plenty of room. It's a brand-new tower. It could probably hold a significant amount of customers on there, whether they be private or intergovernmental. But I don't imagine it'd be a huge return on investment, but it would bring in some money if folks wanted to pursue that.
Mr. Chairman.
Andrew Elters.
Thank you, Supervisor Borelli. At the present time, we do not have arrangement for private partnerships. It is primarily, as you heard, it's really three function. It's the Sheriff's Department, the Road Department, photo radio communication, and then television, which is part of the TV district function. So, but the tower design and capabilities allow for, as you heard, for those future partnerships, should the board consider that and wants to pursue it. So it's something that we can explore in the near future.
Other questions? Supervisor Martin, did you have any other questions? Hearing none, looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Before we go into the public hearings, I've been told by Manager Elters that we do have the water consultant online. Do they want to still give a presentation?
Mr. Chair, Supervisors, my apologies. The link that I have been using for the past year for some reason didn't work today. So I have been listening, and Mr. Gould, congratulations on the extension of your family and the increase by 1 in population to Mojave County. And welcome to the board, Mr. Letman, Mr. Martin, and Mr. Borelli. As an update on water issues, and as you know, we sort of have taken these conversations to be somewhat of a statewide update because these statewide conversations have an implication on our local, how the legislation works with respect to our local impact here in Mojave County. As I mentioned last month, there was a hearing late November for the Wilcox Basin on whether or not the director would create an active management area in Wilcox, which is in southeast Arizona. On December 21st, the director of DWR created an active management area in the Wilcox Basin. That is the first time that an active management area has been created by the director of DWR since the 1980 Groundwater Management Act has been passed. The Groundwater Management Act of 1980 did require the directors of the Department of Water Resources to periodically review basins to determine whether or not they needed to be regulated. However, that was the first time that a basin had actually been regulated. So as the Hualapai was the first time that an INA had been created in 2022. The Wilcox Basin was established as an AMA just a couple weeks ago. That further increases the pressure on creating some other third tool. I can tell you that I've heard from both Republicans and Democrats at the legislature that they would like to create a third tool. And the potential for creating that third tool would allow for Wilcox to be transitioned from an active management area to whatever this new tool that we create would be. I can also tell you that over the past month, I have been working on language with key stakeholders, and I have been talking with our Senator, Ms. Angus, about potential legislation on groundwater legislation, the potential for legislation that would protect the Kingman Basin, the Hualapai Valley Basin, but also not just the Hualapai Valley Basin, but any other future basins. You may recall that when I gave the presentation in August, I think the concern that we had about last year's legislation is that it would have only protected the Hualapai Basin, and there was no potential to deter anybody from basically moving all of their operations to the detrital or the Sacramento Basin, for example. And there were no protections for that. And so we have been keeping an eye on that, and we have potential deterrence going forward. I've been working closely with Jamie Kelly on this as well. And Jamie and I have been having calls both last week and the week prior, and look to have conversations again this week. So we work very closely on this, and we'll continue to have conversations with Ms. Angus. I plan to see her today and hopefully a couple times this week to have conversations about that. And we'll keep the supervisor and Mr. Elters apprised. I also want to extend to each of the new supervisors and existing supervisors, if you have any questions about the water issues, about our positioning, about the policy, I will make myself available to each of you to help you understand the challenges that we face, the history of the legislation, and what the current legislation looks like as we pursue legislation. I can also explain to you the challenges of other legislation that has been proposed that we've opposed in the past, and give you some examples of that. So I'm happy to make myself available and happy to answer any questions today if any of you have them.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Thank you, Ms. Ponder.
Thank you.
We're going to move to the public hearings. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 28, discussion and possible action regarding approval or approve the denial of BOS resolution number 2025-007, a rezone of assessor's parcel numbers 310-25-013A, B, C, D, and E from an AR5A zone and an AR 10A, agricultural residential 10-acre minimum lot size zone, to an AR zone to allow for future residential subdivision in the Kingman vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. We do have people signed up to speak. The first being Leslie Reed. For those that come to testify, if you could give your name and your address for the benefit of our clerk of the board. Thank you.
Good morning, board. I'm not much into public speaking, but this has come up before that they want to rezone these properties off of Cali Castano. And I own a property, me and my wife, on Cali Castano. My issue with this is, as we just saw, water use. Okay, there is no AMA for the basin here that takes care of Kingman. I think maybe there should be. There was a study done by the Water Resource Research Center in Arizona State University, and they've determined that, yes, we have, and this was in 2023, they determined that, yes, we have 100 years worth of water available. But it also states that if continued growth happens, it could cut our water use by 50 years to where we only have 50 years of water. Our water basin here is not recoverable. It doesn't replenish itself. It's fossil water. You know, I have a well on my property. We use it for daily life. I don't sell my water. The water that comes into these subdivisions, they're going to be coming off of a well as well. And that area, I don't think can support 30 to 80 or however many new homes they want to build on these 3 properties that I know of. I don't believe that our infrastructure out there is ready for that. There's only one road in and out of that area, and it has washes on it. During a good monsoon season, sometimes we have to wait for the wash to dry up. We get blocked in or out of the area. You get all these new people coming that don't know that area. How long before they start complaining that the county needs to put viaducts into these washes? Okay, I don't think they need them, but if you get 80 new families out there coming from whatever cities, they're going to complain about it. We have a way of life out there that we like. We have animals. We have noises that most city people don't listen to. Cows, donkeys, roosters. We like our way of life out there. We moved out there to get away from the subdivisions of town. And you guys are allowing a lot of subdivisions in town. There's a lot of building going on. That's good. It's good growth. But that far out of town, I don't think is good growth. And I don't think it needs to be out there in an area where we haul water for the most part, or we pay to have our own well put in. That's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kermit Glenn.
Yes, sir. I've been living out there for 31 years, and we don't have no road going out. Banks has not ever been completed. No infrastructure out there. They've already trying to build a subdivision right next door to me already. No, I don't need it out there. So until somebody puts roads out there and builds all the infrastructure, then we'll figure it out. Until then, we don't need no homes out there. And then the water, there's not enough substantial water coming out of that well to subsidize what's going on already. Because I've already talked to Mike Neal about it when he owned the water company, because that water line goes right down Calablancha. And people run out of water out there all the time. So we've been pretty fortunate because our water comes off that line before the people up on Cactus Run ever get any water. So other than that, I don't know. We don't need that housing development out there. I've been out there 31 years, raised a family. Everybody out there has 5 acres, 10-acre parcels. We don't need to subdivide it any smaller. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny Glenn. And again, just a reminder to state your name at the podium, please.
Penny Glenn, 6268 Illinois. As Leslie stated about the washes, there's a lot of natural washes out there. One of my concerns, amongst others, is the fact that once those washes get filled in, what happens to the water to the people above us? That water's not going to be able to flow. Will they be flooded? What's going to happen with that? We do have to wait for the washes to run. Sometimes we have to go around, but that's far and few between. I would also like to bring to your attention that what they're planning to do is put I would assume it's 1 acre parcels in the middle of a huge area that's got anywhere from 10 to 5 acre parcels. A lot of these people, a lot of us have horses and cows and pigs and everything else, and they also have arenas. There's quite a few houses out there that have arenas. As you know, the only time that they can do anything with their arenas in the summertime would be at night. Sometimes they're there out until 10, 11 o'clock at night, rodeoing or doing whatever they need to do out in their arenas. Nobody cares. We're all there for the same reason. We have no cares of the noise, the smell, or anything like that. Most of us left the city to be in an area where there's going to be acreage. And I mean, we're all friends, we all know each other through one way or another. We're there for each other. But we all moved out there so that we could have the space that we have now. It's wonderful. You can see the stars at night. It's beautiful. Now we're going to have, as you stated earlier, streetlights. If there's a subdivision going in there, it's going to take away from a lot of that for us. The infrastructure is not what it should be. The water, it scares us. The fact that we could run out of water, then what happens? I don't think that the area would be able to withstand another, say, 100 houses in the near future. So what we're asking from you guys is that if we could just keep it the 5 acres, minimum of 5 acres. It's a perfect amount of land for everybody. Nobody's on top of each other. And if we could get that accomplished, just keeping the acreage as 5 acres, that would be great. Thank you, I appreciate your help.
Patricia Powers.
Good morning and Happy New Year. We built our retirement home on Cactus Run.
State your name and address.
I'm sorry, Patricia Powers, 2317 East Cactus Run. We built our retirement home out there in the year 2000 to escape the build-out in the Rancho Santa Fe area, where we lived at the time. And we moved out north out Stockton Hill for the larger parcels. Less traffic, quieter lifestyle, and we loved it. We worked hard, did our homework, and selected an area we were happy with and invested in our home, only to have that peacefulness out there threatened 25 years later. We were told when we purchased our parcel that there were, sorry about my voice, I'm terrible. We were told that there were plans to pave Bank Street back then to afford more access from town so that Cactus Run would not be overburdened with excess traffic flow. And that never transpired, and our road has now turned into a freeway. There's not adequate access to pack more subdivision-type housing in that area meant for larger parcels and rural atmosphere. Due to the lack of much-needed infrastructure and water, which is what we're all talking about, it threatens quality of life issues in Kingman. No water, no town. And we need to protect that at all costs. Please listen to your voters and taxpayers who will be directly affected by your decisions and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Glenn? Or is that Glean? Klein.
My spelling, sorry.
Thank you.
Messy handwriting. Deanna Klein. I live at 6402 Chatham Road. My husband and I have lived there for 37 years. Again, like many of us already talking, chose the area specifically because of the rural life, lots of elbow room, knowing that, you know, the smallest parcels are 5 acres surrounding us, and being able to do whatever. We had 4-H animals, pigs, and all those fun things like that. Never had a problem. We do haul water, and we understand that living there. You know, we have a very deep, dry hole, which is a well, but, you know, again, we're not guaranteed that. So I agree. The road, the infrastructure of our road, it's not there. Water, love hearing the quail, the coyotes, all of that lifestyle that we loved. And we chose our area to live there because we wanted that rural lifestyle. We could have definitely moved into any of the subdivisions in town, and we chose not to. We chose to live out there and have, it's a different kind of community. It's a very close community, And I definitely oppose and hope that you guys oppose this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Copenhaver? Sorry if I mispronounced it.
Michael Copenhaver, 6641 North Avenida Ramirez. Like a lot of people, we went in that area because it was agricultural residential. It's already been stated, Foothills water cannot supply any more growth than what's out there. The road infrastructure is horrible. I mean, our street's like a freeway coming off of Alamo. Bank needs to be finished, and before any rezoning should be even looked at, there should be a plan to bring city water and sewer out to that existing subdivision that they're building across from Game and Fish. They only have one access in because you can't consider Chatham as an access. You need to look at the streets, you need to look at the water before I feel you should even pursue this any farther. But that's my opinion. Thank you, guys.
Richard and Angelica Hoover.
Hi, I'm Angelica Hoover. My husband's with my daughter out there. 2144 East Cali Castano. We moved out there about 3 years ago for the rural area. Nature for our kids, less traffic, like everybody else said. If we wanted to live in the subdivisions, we would have. Water's a concern for us. And the streets definitely should be addressed if they're going to bring more subdivisions in. Those are our concerns, but yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ron Greenberg.
Good morning. My name is Ron Greenberg, 6430 North Illinois. My property would look directly at the concrete block wall that would be the backside of the subdivision, 50 feet from my front yard. Would not please me in the least. I bought 5 acres because that's what I wanted. I wanted to be out in the open. The Mojave General Plan says that it's a guiding for growth for the citizens of Mojave County. Doesn't say anything about guiding the growth for LLC that's located in New York. I'm a little frustrated over the fact that I think that you've been a lot less than transparent. The residential zoning, the AR, agricultural residential, is supposed to have a number opposite. And for the case that's there now, it says either 5 or 10. There is no definition in any of your paperwork that says what a residential subdivision is, how large the lots will be, how many homes will be put in there. Directly south of us, there are 2 residential subdivisions. One's built on half-acre lots, one's built on quarter-acre lots. Huge difference. You take those 5-acre parcels and you divide them into quarter-acre lots, you've got a tremendous increase in population density. You can't support it with the infrastructure that's currently there. The water is an issue, sewage is an issue, solid waste is an issue. Right now we have a redundancy in solid waste removal. We have multiple trucks covering the same area the same day of the week because they work for different garbage companies. If you add an additional number of people, which we don't know for sure because you haven't told us that number, you're going to have more garbage trucks. You're going to have more dust. These are unpaved roads. What we're seeing in Arizona currently, and I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but we have a huge uptick in valley fever. Over 14,000 cases in 2024. 14,000 cases of valley fever. It's fatal for some. It affects dogs, cats, and humans. I'm also concerned about the population of animals and plants that are in that area. There's over 60 different plants and animals that are regulated by the federal government. I haven't seen any documentation that says these have been looked for, identified, and that they don't exist there. The problem with the valley fever is the riparian habitat. The way that the desert is built is that the natural grasses, the natural plants protect the sand, protect the dust. You start removing all of that, you start making lots, and you end up putting all of that PM10 into the atmosphere, and that's where the fungus, the spores for the valley fever can reside. They can be transported on that PM10 that you respire. It's been shown that there are steadily increases in valley fever. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
As you can tell, I'm opposed.
Scott Laird. Oh, Scott Lander, come on down.
Scott Lander, 420 Lomas Flojas, Kingman. Thank you for having me up. Just wanted to go over a few actual facts here about this. Number one, I empathize with everybody's concerns here. I'm speaking in favor, I'll just say it outright, of this agenda item. But I do respect our locals. I am too a local. I've heard several different things. The LLC located in New York, I'm not sure where that came from, but this is a local person developing in his local backyard. I've been here, fourth generation. I know the community well. I also know data that isn't being mentioned here about people that are not only local trying to find properties that they can live on that are affordable on 1 acre. This will be a 1 acre subdivision that's keeping the AR intact. It will be a paved roads. It will not have streetlights. It will have underground utilities. And the intent is to build affordable homes on 1 acre with RV garages that people that are locals that are asking about this type of product all the time that they need, because there are no 1 acre properties in the Kingman area that are consistently affordable or developed. There's consistent properties that might be available, but they have to go sink another $10,000 to $40,000 into them. I have demands every single day from clients and other people asking for these types of properties all the time, and there's just not the availability. So trying to create a product that fits the area, keeps agricultural intact. There's a half mile to the west, there's subdivision with 1 acre properties with water and power. The subdivision directly next door already is developed with 1 acre properties that was approved by the county recently. This will look very similar. There is going to, like I said, paved roads. There's multiple access processes to get in and out. There's a tiny bit of a flood zone in the southwest corner that we're retaining for a large parcel and creating the proper drainage to avoid the flooding according to county standards. And you know, it's going to be a very nice quality that's going to be between $300,000 and $450,000, improving the values in the area with a better quality home than some of the subdivisions that are surrounding it to improve values. So with that, I try to cover the basics here. I have renderings that I've sent several people in the county to show the product that we're offering and want to do, and I would just consider that you would take those things into effect. I know the water is another concern, but I've talked to Mike Neal and heard different things, and I'd like to refute some of that stuff being accurate with water availability. And it's 30 homes. We're not talking about 250 homes here. We're talking about 30 homes that fit 1 acre properties on AR zoning. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Ledger. This is a public hearing. After I close the public hearing, we'll open it up to the board. Michelle Ledger, Viger, excuse me.
Good morning, Michelle Ledger, 6208 North Arkansas. I live off of Cali Blanca. I have 5 acres, soon to be 10, as I'm purchasing the property behind me. 5 years ago, I moved to this rural area, 5 to 10 acres, as I have livestock and do livestock activities, including horseback riding, which the area with a lot of my neighbors have got livestock and animals as well, which brings noises, flies, and dirt. And we like our area. We like to be able to go out and be safe. I feel that bringing in this new community of multiple families into the area is going to create a lot more traffic, which causes a lot more dangers to the area. Again, we are congested and have one way in and one way out. Off of Cali Blanca, it is a dirt road with no traffic signs, speed limits, etc. We do get a lot of motorized vehicles, dirt bikes, quads, side-by-sides, etc. Bringing in a larger community of people and homes, as a gentleman said, RV garages, etc. Most people have mechanical toys, all of these items, dirt bikes, side-by-sides. Bringing more people in causes more dangers to the people, the infrastructure that's already there of livestock. And I also feel that we're going to cause conflict with neighbors. All of these new people coming in from cities or wherever, which is wonderful. Everyone deserves a home. But I feel like with the surrounding homes around this proposed development, all of us with livestock, dirts, noises, things of that nature, these new people who may not have animals, it's going to cause conflict. People don't want these noises. They don't want the dust. They're going to start complaining. So you're going to have neighboring quarrels. Cali Blanca is dirt. It is very hard driving, as we seem to only get it worked on once a year. And it's rough. So a lot of traffic speeding in and out. And we do have one access in and out, as Bank is not really usable. We all have to go up Cherem, Bull Mountain, etc., which is going by other smaller communities. Now, a lot of these people have children. We have dogs, we have horses, we have whatever we want on that area. And that's why we moved out there, so that we could have a rural lifestyle. Bringing in a smaller subdivision, people don't understand livestock, that they're spooky. Dogs, children. I would like to see my grandchildren be able to go out there and play and live the American lifestyle that we wanted as moving out there. Again, I'm towards the end of the watering system on that well, and the water is a huge concern for me. If we run out, what are we going to do? We do not have city water. We do not have city sewage. We have septics. We have water running down the line, and my water pressure is very weak as I'm towards the end. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jennifer Esposito.
Jennifer Esposito, editor, Mojave Free Press, candidate for District 4 County Supervisor 2028. Good morning. Happy New Year. One of the things that I think, especially considering we have new board members and whatnot, so, we've got a fresh start. But when it comes to subdivisions especially, is that I think that board members who are outside of the district affected, whether they be pro-development or anti-development, on these situations should actually drive to the location. I mean, I'm on record saying I don't normally oppose keeping 1 acre minimums, keeping agricultural zoning, because there are people that, will have a horse or some goats or chickens or whatever on 1 acre. But as has been pointed out, access to this location is a bit convoluted, one way in, one way out. I'm sure that most of you have never tried to drive north on Bank Street, but since our home is not far from Bank Street, we've actually gone out that way a few times, and they're right. It's all but unusable, and I don't see it being brought into the county system anytime soon. The other thing being the water. I mean, an INA only stops agricultural wells from being drilled, really, and there's so many right now they could pump the thing dry, and but although the idea of 1 acre lots with RV storage is a great thing, the thing that I'm always concerned about is I hear people say all the time, affordable housing. Affordable housing. Affordable to who exactly? Affordable to my husband and I on 1 Social Security check? I don't know. I didn't hear, maybe you can ask when you call the gentleman back up, exactly how much you anticipate selling these for, whether they're not actually affordable. I do hear a lot of arguments about we need housing, we need housing. Well, there's a lot of housing being built. I'm not even sure the future of this country and the future of this county, if the housing that's being currently built will be sold. But the reality is, as I've stated before, is that with the general plan, nobody has an absolute right to a rezone. I might have been a little bit more on the fence, and then I looked at the list of the planning and zoning people who voted in favor of this, and that was kind of a red flag for me because I don't trust a couple of those people. But that's just my personal opinion, having watched a lot of this. So you've got some interesting things to weigh on this, and I don't know if it's the right project at the right time, but good luck.
That was the last speaker we had. I'm going to ask if there's anybody else that we did not call that would like to speak on this item. Sir, with your hand raised, come to the podium, please.
Ernest Martin, 2046 Cactus Run Road. We moved to Cactus Run approximately, we bought our land 4 years ago. Just built our beautiful home out there on that drag strip, and it's a drag strip. They're right. There's only one way in, one way out. What happens if somebody's house catches on fire? They're going down these bouncy roads, dirt, everything. The fire department can't get to them, not quick enough. You got people that's got arenas. We hear them every night in the summertime when they're training their horses or what have you. I came out here in the early 80s when I was 16 years old. I loved this town. I lived back east. My aunt and uncle lived here. They lived off Mallard. When I was 16 years old, I'm like, I'm coming back to Mojave County. This is a beautiful town. The infrastructure that's going up now, oh my God, what's going on here? It's just getting out of control. And now you're taking people that's moved out of the city and gone to the suburbs or the rural areas, and you're taking that away from them. I don't think it's right. I came here because it was a beautiful town, but we're overbuilding. There's a lot of people that's coming in from other states that they can't afford to be there because of their government, so on and so forth. Are we going to do that here too? Are we going to make it so affordable that the citizens of Mojave County are getting to the point they can't afford to live here, and we just keep going on and on and on? I just think it's the wrong time, wrong place. I've gone down bank on my side-by-side so many times. I could put every one of you all and those podiums in certain ditches that are down that road. I mean, it's not a joke. It's terrible. But like I say, Cactus Run Road, it is a drag strip. I look on, the little page from Facebook, Onions and Orchids of Mojave County. There was a guy there just before the last meeting here. Said he's going down through there in his water truck, and the guy passes him 100 and something miles an hour and clips him in his water truck and keeps going. That's how bad that road is. We see it every day. We have a police officer that lives right on the corner. There must be a sign on his car. As soon as you pass his car, it says step on the accelerator, because that's exactly what they do. So like the lady just stated, you might want to take a look at what's going on out there and other parts of Mojave County. It's not just there. But don't ruin Mojave County. Don't let things like this happen just because a developer comes in and wants to do what he wants to do. Thank you for your time.
With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do any one of our board members, would they like to hear from Scott Holtree to hear the reasoning for the commission? Scott, you want to come up really quick, and explain the commission's vote?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this item was heard last month by the commission. Just to clarify a few things, this subdivision is proposed in a suburban residential general plan area. So the general plan does designate this area for 1 acre lot sizes. That's what the plan is designated for. Directly east of these parcels is also a subdivision that is the exact same lot sizes, the 1 acre lot sizes. AR is a 1 acre minimum lot size. And so they couldn't go any smaller than that 1 acre. The item was heard by the commission. We did have a few individuals that came and spoke in opposition to this item. The commission also had some concerns about the density as well, at least the ones that voted for denial. The applicant, I don't believe the applicant was there to answer any questions of the commission at that time, and so the vote for the commission was the 5-4 vote for recommending denial.
Thank you, Scott. Questions from supervisors? Supervisor Martin.
Scott, I'd like to know, Bank Street has already been, it's on the county plan, is it not, for development in, I think, 26, 27? Isn't that what's out there? I mean, what's planned for that Bank Street right now?
Supervisor Martin, that would be something that the Public Works Director would maybe know. That's not something that I would be familiar with. I do know, as far as this subdivision is concerned, if they are approved for their zoning, they would have to submit for the preliminary plat and final plat. Those improvements do require traffic impact analyses to make sure that the infrastructure that's in place can sustain what is being proposed. So whatever is being proposed, even the roads leading to this subdivision would have to be improved if required by that traffic impact analysis.
Okay, I think Mr. Latosky could answer my question about.
Mr. Latosky, you want to come down and answer Supervisor Martin's question?
And just for the record, I've been out there. I got some complaints from people that live out there that ask about Bank Street, and I've lived here for 50 years. I know what Bank Street looks like now, and I know what it looks like years ago. But I went out there, and I took a lot of pictures out there, and I reached out to Mr. Latosky, and can you just verify what the plans are for Bank Street for as far as the county's concerned?
Yes, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, Supervisor Martin, the Mojave County 5-year Capital Road Improvement Program does show Bank Street as a project for hard surfacing from the northern end of its existing paved limits to Cali Castrano. It's a distance of approximately 2 miles. It would require the acquisition of rights-of-way as well as the overall hard surfacing project. I must emphasize for the board that our capital improvement road program is fiscally unconstrained. There is not, especially county funding program for this particular project unless the board were to undertake that consideration. What's an advantage of having projects like this, and this was a project of importance to the board when the capital improvement road program was adopted, is the county could potentially, seek other funds such as federal funds and state funds, namely federal funds, for this type of improvement. However, if between now and that time ever comes to fruition, if there's a private development and through our land division regulations, there's a real basis by which a private development would have to bear certain expenses in improving portions or even all the roadway, then that would be undertaken as well.
And is there anything on the board for improving Bank Street by grading or, it's full of holes, and I talked to the residents out there, and they told me that when it rains, it fills up those low spots, and then we get quads and side-by-sides ripping through there, and it just makes those holes deeper. Is there any plans by the county to mitigate or, smooth out that road at all?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Martin, for the portions of Bank Street in that northern part, which are not in the Mojave County maintenance system, the Highway User Revenue Fund regulations preclude the county from putting any of its own resources on that roadway. A few things of note is the public does have the ability through Resolution 2016-116 to grade at their expense, just smoothen the road surface of unmaintained county rights-of-ways. Again, these are unmaintained routes that the county cannot put its own resources on. And also, we have a formal petition process that the public can undertake, a roadway maintenance petition to, again, improve the roadways at their expense in the interest of the county, considering future maintenance acceptance.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was out there and I took photos of these, is there signs at the end of each, the north and south end of that, and it says, unmaintained road, travel at your own risk. So, I mean, it's not like folks out there don't know that, you know, that is an unpaved, not a county road to speak of. And, you know, there are, like you said, there's opportunities to do it, but to, you know, I personally, to think that we would ask the citizens to go out there and grade that thing off, I don't think it's feasible. But I think it is important, though, that you know, as you've mentioned, this is on the board down the road, and it has to be something that needs to be taken into consideration, because, like I said, I was out there for about 3 hours. I drove every road I could out there, took pictures. I stopped in, I talked to residents, and I asked residents about it. So I'm aware of what's going on out there, and like I say, it's a tough situation. The 1 acre parcels that the developer's saying he's going to build, there's no quarter acre or half acre. It's minimum 1 acre. Is that correct? Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Martin, absolutely. Yeah, the proposed zoning would be AR, which is a 1 acre minimum lot size.
Okay, so we're not talking about high density housing at all out there.
No.
Is there any subdivisions close by that are high density?
The closest subdivisions that would be high density, actually it wouldn't even be considered high density, but it's still in the low density, is the Fountain Hills subdivision to the south there on your quarter acre lot sizes in that area. Directly, like I said, directly adjacent to this subdivision, or this proposed subdivision, is another 1 acre, which is our suburban residential type development, which is what the plan is showing for this area as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Supervisor Borelli, did you have a question? And then I'll get to you, Supervisor. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, so let me get this straight. There's no like city water on this. This is all groundwater?
Supervisor Borelli, that's correct. They would, I do believe they have on their application that they would be receiving water from the nearby utility in the area. But other than that, yeah, it would be a private water in that area.
Private water, yeah, Mr. Chair. So a private water source, and what about sewer? They're all going to be on septic?
Yeah, so the 1 acre lot minimum does allow for septic systems. Any size lot that is 1 acre or greater, you can do a septic system on.
Mr. Chairman, one more follow-up question. Is the developer going to pave through the right-of-way and all those other roads through there?
So, like I said, this is the initial stages where it's the rezone. We're just rezoning whether or not they can even do this type of development in this area. If approved, if this rezone is approved, they would have to provide us a preliminary plat and a final plat, and with that, they would have to do a traffic impact analysis, which would determine whether or not improvements to the surrounding area would be required. I know within the subdivision, paved streets is required, so they would have to pave inside the subdivision itself, but whether or not adjacent or other streets leading to this subdivision would be required to be paved, that would be determined by the traffic impact analysis.
One more question, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, so is there a possibility down the road that even if they paved it, this could still be under the county's jurisdiction for responsibility for maintaining?
Yeah, so the roads leading to this subdivision are county maintained on the north and the south. The north street being Calle Castano, and that one is paved and maintained by the county. Any roads that they create with this subdivision more than likely would be adopted by the county for road maintenance as well with the final plat approval.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the new board members, let me give you Gould Rule 1. After this leaves the dais, if it passes, this is the last time you're going to see it. It then goes to staff. It's out of your hands. If you want that road to be paved, you need to put that in your motion today, because it may not get in there by staff. Staff might not, their rules may not require that. But if you want something in a development, you need to do it. If you're looking at improving this, you need to put those restrictions on there now. Otherwise, you may not get those at a later date. Because of our process, we don't require that they bring us a completed plan.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Supervisor Gould, we do, so at the end, we do a final plat, and the final plat gets processed through our administrative process, make sure it meets all the requirements, but then we do bring that to the board for final approval. The final plat, and you guys can say yes or no on that final plat.
Supervisor Gould.
But generally, that's a thumbs up, thumbs down at that point.
And if I may, just one other thing, we do require on those final plats, it is a requirement to state whether or not there is water adequacy, 100-year water adequacy. They do need to put that on the final plat. If there is not water adequacy, then they would have to state that on the final plat as well. They get that through the utility that they will be providing for the subdivision or ADWR themselves.
Mr. Chairman, Director Holtry, but that does not prevent them from developing. It's just a notation on the plat.
Unless the board would deny the plat at that time, then they...
Yeah, at least it informs the board whether they have water adequacy or not.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to that point of question, but if this is denied, it doesn't stop this from coming back to us or going back through planning and zoning and basically go back to the drawing board and go back to us, correct?
Scott.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Borelli, if denied today, they would need to wait at least 1 year to bring back the same proposal. That's stated in our zoning ordinance. If they want to bring back the same proposal, they would have to wait at least 1 year after denial to bring back the same proposal that they're proposing.
Scott, would they not also be able to bring back a modified proposal at that time as well?
Correct.
If they chose to.
Correct. If they wanted to switch it to a 5-acre or a larger size acreage or something like that, that would be different enough to be able to say that it's not the same proposal.
Other questions from the board members? Supervisor Lettman.
Thank you. Director Holtry, could you just restate it one more time? Who makes the final determination whether or not there's enough water to service this subdivision?
Supervisor Lingenfelter, Supervisor Littman, yes. The final determination of whether or not there's water adequacy would be by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. Mm-hmm. We do require that the subdivider place on their plat the certificate that shows that there is water adequacy for 100 years. A lot of times the subdivider will use the water utility that has already received that water adequacy with ADWR. They'll use that certificate and place it on the subdivision plat, but ultimately it's up to ADWR.
Okay, just on a side note, Ms. Esposito will be pleased to know that I also drove out to this area, and it was not easy to navigate through this part. Thank you.
I'd only have one question, Scott. Yeah. So we've heard a lot about the 100-year water supply certificates from ADWR. That's actually just a snapshot point in time. How long are those good for?
Mr. Chair, I believe when somebody receives a water adequacy, it's in the moment. So if this subdivision was looking to receive that water adequacy from ADWR themselves, the ADWR would look at it at this moment.
Yeah, it's a snapshot, but what my question is once that snapshot is taken and they have a 100-year water supply, how long is that certificate valid?
And I think what I would say is that they look at the proposed development. So the utility that they're looking to maybe use already has that ADWR water adequacy, and I believe they base it on the amount of use or potential users in that area. So I don't think it would be a time frame, but I think it would be amount of users. And so if the utility that they're proposing to use can accommodate the new subdivision within that water adequacy, then I believe that it would fall under it.
Any other questions from the board? Supervisor Martin.
Mr. Lichtenfelder, I have a question. What we're asking to vote on today is approve the denial.
That is correct.
So we're asked if we're not going to support this by the developer, then what we're looking at, and I see that the planning and zoning, obviously that was real close. That's a 5-4. So there's questions obviously that were asked that weren't answered, and I think you kind of addressed that. But like I say, this particular situation, it's like this. There doesn't seem to be, to me anyway, any clear-cut what we should do on this thing, because there's people are asking questions and whatnot. So my question is, how, when we vote, if we're going to vote yes, it's to approve the denial.
Allow me to clarify. So our Planning and Zoning Commission is an advisory capacity. They have recommended a denial, but now it's at the Board of Supervisors. You can approve a denial or motion to approve the denial. You can motion to approve the subdivision rezone itself, or you can motion to approve the rezone with conditions. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd be open to a motion.
Supervisor Linkenfelter?
Supervisor Martin.
I'd make a motion that we approve the denial of the applicant's rezone.
Okay, you've heard that motion. Do I have a second? You've heard that second. Any other discussion?
I would just like to say that I believe in what the people want to do. The people that have lived out there for a long, long time. I also recognize private property rights, that people that buy private property, they have a right to develop it. They don't have a right to a rezone, but they have a right to petition to develop it. But personally, and I said this during my campaign, I'm going to represent the people on this. And the people, I think, have spoken on this, and that's what I'm going to vote for.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second to approve the denial of BOS resolution number 2025-007. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Guys appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. We're going to move to the... Thank you very much. We're going to move to the public hearing on item number 29. Open the public hearing, discussion, and possible action. Approve the denial of BOS resolution number 2025-005, a rezone of assessor's parcel number 306-44-004F from an AR3A zone to an AR zone to allow for a minor land division in the Golden Valley vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. Commission recommended denial by 5-1 vote. We have some people signed up to speak. The first being Janelle Warren. Janelle Warren.
Good morning.
Morning. You can state your name and address. Thank you very much.
My name is Janelle Warren. I am the applicant in regards to rezone the property located at 524 South Estrella Road.
Let me interrupt you. If you guys could all quietly exit the auditorium. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt your time.
Oh, it's okay. I would like to address the concerns and comments of Cami Kamuda and Suzette Lavender from the prior board meeting that I was unable to attend. The concern of additional traffic on that small part of the road and the road not being maintained by the city. I believe with the potential of 3 additional driveways, this could take financial burden off Cami and Suzette, as well as other neighbors. Splitting this parcel would not cause any hardship on the fire or police and would be beneficial by the potential of more tax money for the city and its improvements, for road, fire, police, etc. Almost all surrounding properties have been split to smaller parcels already. 7409 West Ship Drive is a 1.04 acre lot. It's a garage across the street from Suzette's house. 7316 Ship Drive is located just east of Cammie and Suzette's home. This property is owned by a local tow service who also uses the same road with heavy equipment. 7431 West Ship Drive is a 1.04 acre lot. On this property located directly across the street from Suzette is a lived-in RV. 7380 West Ship Drive is a 1.13 acre lot directly next to Cammie. This property has cars and a lived-in RV as well. Stick homes in this area are not common. If I'm not mistaken, only one other stick home is in the surrounding area that I had to notify. I'm not opposed to stick homes being built anywhere and could possibly even be built on any one of the split 1.25 acres, increasing value. But if not, and instead, let's just say newer manufactured home was to be built, this would actually increase the median value in the area and benefit many. I would not have time to list and read all the other surrounding split properties with manufactured homes, RVs, or garages that surround us, but I can tell you each and every property in our community I respect in their own appearance and way of living. It is unfortunate Suzette and Cammie have already surrounded themselves in what they seem to be against and or concerned for. Statements made by Cammie and Suzette have no relevance to this case for my request to split the property, but for the record, I did meet with Suzette in May of 2024. I gave her numerous contact information to reach me, so she could contact us if she ever had any concerns or questions, and since that day, she has never reached out to us. I did also bring a screenshot of that. Suzette has 1.06 acres and Cammie 1.86 acres, yet somehow they feel I should not be entitled to my right to split my property to 1.25 acres. The past 2 years at this property, we have never had any code violations. We have also made improvements to the property since purchased on 1/3/2023, and we hope you reconsider to move forward with our rezone splitting the parcel. Thank you. Any
Thank you, ma'am.
questions?
We can't ask questions during a public hearing. We can call you back up after the public hearing closes, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Suzette Pretty Louder and Jennifer Esposito's on deck. You can state your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Suzette Pretty Lavender, 7420 West Ship Drive. I'm a direct neighbor to this 5-acre parcel. I am opposed. Oh, can you hear me okay? Is it too loud?
Get into the mic.
Okay, that better?
That's way better.
I am still opposed to this, as this would take away my privacy. I did not move to a rural community to have a 5-acre parcel, which I saw when I purchased the home that was nice, beside me, as well as Cammie Kamuta's home. There are only 2 trailers on our road. The rest are shops, with people that do reside in their shops or RVs. This property is just an eyesore. It will put a detriment on our sheriff's, fire department, other services, our rural mail carriers, which my husband can attest to as he is one. I don't see why we should ruin land, our soil, strain on our water, just like the other people of the other agendas have said. Let's keep it rural. We're not in the city. We don't need a bunch of plots that'll probably have trailers. And I like my privacy. I wouldn't have moved there with my autistic daughter if I didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jennifer Esposito. And Cammie Kamuta is on deck.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, again. And thank you, Supervisor Letman, for taking the time to drive to that other location. Appreciate it. What we're talking about here isn't, like a subdivision. We talk a lot about, property rights. And as I've said in the past, the property rights you have are basically the property rights whatever you were zoned for and whatever you bought it for. But I have less of a problem with minor land divisions when they do stay above an acre. If the property is, quote, an eyesore now, maybe splitting it up into 3 separate pieces, maybe the people controlling the other pieces, if the pieces are sold, might take a little more pride in the property, might clean it up, might fence it. Continuing the privacy thing. I don't really, because I have a lot of history in Golden Valley, and I'm a property owner in Golden Valley. I don't really, in Golden Valley, most of the people are consistent with 1 acre or larger land use. So I don't really oppose this because it is still maintains the over an acre. And while there is some concern about the water in Golden Valley, the current belief is that it's adequate. So I don't think that the water is as much of an issue, but because this is such a minor thing, I really don't see it as being a big problem. I'd be more concerned if there were, again, a large group of people who were all in the surrounding area opposed to it, as we have had, and those of you who've been here longer know. When Golden Valley opposes something, they come out in force in bright yellow shirts and things that, the surrounding neighborhood does tend to. So, no disrespect to the woman who wants her privacy. I mean, I bought my property because I like my privacy too, but I also know that it's undeveloped around my property, and there's every chance that there could be some development in the future, and I knew that when I bought it. But I don't really see that this is something that's not consistent with the overall, I guess you would say, flavor of Golden Valley. So, well, I don't really, support or oppose it because I don't have skin in the game personally. I'm just kind of concerned why the board, Planning and Zoning Board, voted so far in one direction or not, and maybe some of those questions could be answered by, asking the person that's asking for the request. So, thank you.
Cami Kamuda?
Good morning, Cami Kamuda, 7392 West Ship Road. I live 2 houses down from the proposed split. And our whole thing that I hit on huge the last time is our road. Our road, when we bought our home, said it was a maintained road. It is not maintained, and it is awful. And so putting 3 more driveways onto that road at the cost of the people that live on that road, they asked me to go to Public Works, I think it was, to check on that, but it's at our cost. I did get a petition to try it, but it's at our cost. And a lot of people don't want to put into that road. Also, in the first proposal, it said personal use. It did not say that they were going to split it and put homes on it. It said it was for personal use. And so this time it does not say that. And she stated that it was going to be possibly for different homes. And so the stress, again, I'm going to go with Suzette, our privacy, the stress of the utilities, the stress on our road. The property in question has vehicles all over it on one corner. I'm going to say they are on one corner, but they're an eyesore. I don't want my property to go. We came from Green Bay, Wisconsin a year ago to get out of the city, to get out of that, to have our lot, our big lot. We're almost 2 acres. She is correct. We're a little bit under 2 acres. It was already split, already maintained. My neighbor right next door is Greg. He actually owned the home that we live in. He does live in an RV, but he's going to be building a home in the next year. So that will be a stick-built home right next to us. And there are stick-built homes farther down Ship Drive. So I'm opposed to this for our road, for the value, what's going to be there. There was a lot of not questions answered at the last meeting, and she didn't come to the last meeting, so those questions couldn't be answered. That's what I have. Thank you.
Next speaker is Suzette Pretty Lavender. Got her. Okay. Thank you. I'll make a call. Is there anybody that I did not call that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Would anyone like to hear from Director Holtry?
I would like to hear that.
Director Holtry?
Mr. Chair, members of the board. Yeah, this item is for a minor land division. Everything surrounding this parcel has similar zoning of the 1 acre minimum lot size. Essentially, I believe it's about 5 acres in size. And it's currently zoned for 3 acre minimum. The zoning that is proposed would bring it down to a 1 acre minimum. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, there was a few that came and spoke in opposition. The applicant was not in attendance. With that, I believe the commission had some questions. We weren't really able to get them answered. And so with that, they recommended denial. It was an 8-to-1 vote.
Thank you. Questions from our supervisors? Questions? Supervisor Martin?
Yes, just to clarify, I heard water talked about. In case you don't know, Golden Valley has a lot of water. That's a huge, huge aquifer out there. So to allude that, oh, hey, we can't do this because there's no water out there, that's not true. There's lots of water out there. So it's one of the best aquifers we have in Mojave County. So I just wanted to clarify that statement I don't think is true. And if we're looking at this from just oh, there's a problem with the water, there won't be enough water, I'm not buying that. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Supervisor Littman?
Yes, I went out there and I definitely agree with the one speaker who said this is an eyesore on one part. It certainly is, but I truly believe this is a reasonable request. Okay, and I intend to support it. Vote against the denial.
Okay. Other comments or questions from the board members? And hearing none, I would be open to a motion. Supervisor Martin?
Make a motion that we vote against that denial, that we approve it, that we approve the project.
Make a motion to approve BOS resolution number 2025-005.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. We'll move to the public hearing on item number 30. Discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of BOS resolution number 2025-004, a rezone of assessor's parcel number 225-71-395A from an RM, multiple residential zone, to an SDR, special development residential zone, to allow for a future residential subdivision in the Fort Mojave vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. We do have some people signed up to speak. The first being Joseph Jones. Mac Hale, you're on deck.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Jones. I'm the broker for Desert Lakes Realty at 5858 South Highway 95. And I'm here to talk about the proposed subdivision. Oh, by the way, congratulations to all the new members. I'm here to talk about the development of Boundary Cone Road. I think there's been a lot of misinformation about the project. I'm sure you've read some of the complaints. It's going to lower our property values, cause noise, a big tower, things like that. We don't know anything about a tower. As far as property values, I am the first resident at the golf course, the very first, and I've had my view blocked many, many times over the last 14 years I've lived there. I'm also a real estate broker. I sell a lot of the property there in Los Lagos, and I have for several years, and I don't see any way that this is going to hurt our property values at the golf course. As far as noise, we have off-road vehicles going up and down the road now at our golf course causing noise. But this development is something that's very much needed. There'll be RV garage duplex type units. We have a lot of RV people here in the wintertime. We have a lot of boaters here in the summertime. It's going to be a great fit for our community, and the golf course will have added customers for their development also. So I just don't see any way in the world that this could be opposed. So that's why I'm here. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mac Hale?
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. I'm Mac Hall with Iris Development Services. I'm the engineer for the project. So right now, the property is zoned multifamily residential. The developer is planning on constructing 34 duplexes on the project, which he can do by right now. His plan is to rezone it to SDR2 to allow for a common property line down the party wall. That'll be the only change in the development. If you have any questions after the public hearing, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Jennifer Esposito?
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, again. I know I kind of get a reputation for being anti-development and whatnot, but I'm really not. I'm for responsible development that's consistent with, you know, the surrounding communities. And if the neighborhood doesn't have a problem with this, and there is adequate roads, you know, the only thing I'm not sure of, and I'm sure that Supervisor Gould would know, is that is this a groundwater from the river situation where you're dealing with Colorado River allotment water, you have adequate water and whatnot. The only thing that I did want to say is, because, you know, we have different developments in different areas and each one is unique, which is why, you know, one size doesn't fit all. As was pointed out on the first one in Kingman, and as Supervisor Gould pointed out, pretty much once you guys sign off on this, you don't see it again until the very, very end. And it's staff that takes over everything on the interim. So I would just like to throw it out there that this new incarnation of the board might want to consider with developments in the future, because Mojave County is developing and a lot of people want to build houses and duplex and apartment complexes and everything here, is that you might want to consider some sort of plan in the future to put more control over over larger developments at this initial stage, you know, requiring maybe a more of a development plan be submitted, because like staff always likes to point out, oh, well, this is only the first step. Don't worry about anything. It's all going to be fine. So I just, you know, this is, in the past, we've always said, oh, I'm going to defer to the supervisor whom the project district is in. And we're still a board of 5. But, you know, if this is something that is consistent and that there is adequate utilities, water, roads, and things for, I don't see any reason to oppose it, but it's not my district, so thank you.
I'll make one call. Is there anyone that we did not get to that wants to speak on this item? Sir, with your hand up, come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Pastor Roy Hagemeyer, Mojave Valley, Arizona. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I have a question. Maybe Supervisor Gould has the answer. I believe this project is at Mountain View and Boundary Cone. Is the developer going to pave that portion of Mountain View Road, which is kind of part of our plan for
development? We'll have to get to that after the public hearing closes.
So that's my question.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Would anybody like to hear from Director Director Holtry on this? Come on down.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, just like to point out a few things. This property is already zoned RM, which is our multifamily zone. It does allow for a minimum of 6,000 square foot lots, which is our low density residential. The general plan has this designated as low density residential. The surrounding property is also low density residential. what they're proposing is actually changing that from an RM zone to an SDR zone, which would allow for the R2 uses. Essentially, it would right now the current zoning could allow for apartment complexes, which would be even more densely used, as opposed to the R2 zone does not allow for those apartment complexes, but it does allow for the zero lot line on the adjacent parcel, so they could do the townhomes that they're proposing. With that, I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions? Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Holtry, Pastor Hagemeyer mentioned the paving of Mountain View Road. Does that have anything to do with this project?
So this Mountain View Road is already paved in that area.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the board members? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? Heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 31 was pulled. Item number 32 on the regular agenda, discussion and possible action, designate Pierce Ferry Road from US 93 to Diamond Bar Road, 29 miles, a safety corridor, and approve the Public Works Department's installation of safety corridor warning signs to heighten motorist awareness of posted speed limits and road conditions. Director Latosky, would you like to speak on this item?
Chairman Lingenfelter and members of the board, this does indeed pertain to a 29-mile section of Pierce Ferry Road between US 93 and Diamond Bar Road. It's most likely our highest concentration of tourists or out-of-state visitors using that roadway compared to most any other roads. Over the past few years, Public Works has facilitated constructing over 15 miles of rumble strips, centerline and edgeline rumble strips at over $1.1 million federally funded. We also widened Pierce Ferry Road from Lloyd Street to Ironwood Drive at about $2.4 million, 1.6 of which was federal funds. We've also installed quite innovative watch for cattle on pavement markings, as well as installed flashing radar actuated speed limit signs. However, we still have a proportion of the traffic that is tourist-oriented traffic, and they're just drivers that are less focused on the driving task. And we've heard through Supervisor Martin's office, as well as through residents ourselves, of concerns for ongoing speeding in the area. And what Public Works proposes is designating on the entry to Pierce Ferry Road on both the east end as well as the west end near Diamond Bar Road to emphasize the motorists that this is a safety corridor. We've been doing our level best through engineered improvements to attend to motorist safety, but still, the speeding is something that we really need the drivers to buy into, and emphasizing this as a safety corridor hopefully heightens their awareness of the posted speed limits.
Great. If you would stay close, we have one person that signed up to speak, and then we'll get to discussion. One person signed up to speak, Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Chairman. Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. I drive Pierce Ferry Road every month when I deliver the newspapers out there. And for the sake of the cows, people should at least slow down, because you can almost guarantee that there's going to be a dead one or two on the side of the road somewhere, because people do tend to speed out there. And although I don't, because I don't want to hit a cow in the dark, especially at night. It's very dark out there. And, sometimes coming back from dropping off newspapers, I'll have 2 or 3 people behind me getting agitated because I don't want to speed out there and wanting to pass me and take off. And so if this is covered by highway user revenue funds, if there's no additional expense to the county in any way, I think this is probably a good thing to do, because it is a little bit crazy out there, and when you drive it a lot, you notice that there's a lot of traffic, people who are coming from Meadview, working in Dolan and whatnot, and so it is an issue. It's been an ongoing issue, and I support anything that would make it safer for my own sake and the cows. Thank you.
Comments or discussion? Supervisor Martin.
Yes, thank you. I've been out to Dolan Springs a lot, and I'll tell you something. I cannot believe what they have going on out there as far as traffic, whether it's tourists that have rented a car in Vegas and they have no concept about traffic laws in America. Those folks out there reached out to me and said, hey, we're in a danger zone in our community. It's 25 miles per hour out there, and yet when you go out there, you're not going to see hardly anybody drive 25 miles an hour. I went out there recently and stood on the side of the road from the VFW to the American Legion, and I just watched traffic. And there's a lot of traffic, or a lot of foot traffic that goes back and forth. I stood there for about 20 minutes, and I'm telling you that it's dangerous. Those folks, and I'm going to say this, I think it's mostly the tourists, even though I did see some local people there, that just drive like that's a freeway out there. It was dangerous. I couldn't go across, and I'm not really fast now anymore at my age, and you know, you couldn't go across there. You literally take your life in your hands just walking from the VFW across the street. I spoke with Mr. Latosky, and this is so needed, but it's just a first step. I'm going to request a meeting with Sheriff Schuster to address that situation because we need to do something. Ms. Esposito's right. There's cattle. It's probably one of the only places I've seen that when you drive through town, you're either going to see a few pedestrians or you're going to see a herd of cattle walking across the road. And when you're going 50, 55 miles an hour through there, that's not safe for anybody. And it's not safe for the cattle. And unfortunately, they got a dog problem, and they run over dogs out there too. So this is a great project. This is something that I'm really pleased to see that Mr. Latosky and the county has already started. But again, in my opinion, this is just the first step. We need to take better care and plan for those people in those communities that have these problems with just speeding people that they have no concept about that. And I do believe it's due to the tourist traffic that's going up through there. But I absolutely support this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'm open to a motion. Supervisor Martin.
I make a motion and we approve.
Second.
That motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do you have it? So ordered. Item number 33. Approve the recommendation of the county manager to appoint Juliana Demers to the position of Human Resources Director, effective date Monday, January 27th, 2025, at range 29, step 8, or $117,832 annually. We do have one person to speak, Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman, again. My objection is not to the woman who is being put up for this position. My objection is to the process. As I've stated to the previous incarnation of the board, I would like to see the board take a more active role in determining who gets to fill these positions. In other words, if you had, 5 or 10 people apply for a position like this, that it be the board that interviews them, and the board make a decision based on that as to who gets the final appointment, instead of abdicating their authority to Mr. Elters at every turn. I'm sure maybe she's probably the most wonderful, qualified person on the planet, but under the current system that we have, you would not know that, because you're only going always on the recommendation of Mr. Elters. So I would just like to say that I object to Mr. Elters just always bringing this board one choice and one choice only, and that the board does not have the opportunity to interview all applicants, or if it's a position where maybe there's a lot of applicants, you know, maybe you have 20, 30 applicants for a position, I don't know, that where Mr. Elters might make a recommendation, I feel these are the top 3 or top 5, and that the board themselves make these hiring decisions, because ultimately you are responsible to the taxpayers that pay the salaries. So it's just something to consider, and I just wanted to take a moment to point that out. Thank you.
Manager Elters, I'll kick this item to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. As you know, this position has been vacated since former Director Ken Cunningham left the county. So, consistent with best practices, I did assemble a panel of 5 department heads and lead admin folks with the experience and knowledge in the county to start the recruitment and interview process. We received more than 24 applications. The panel interviewed 7 candidates and reduced it down to 3. They ranked and recommended 3 for further interviews. I did interview with 1 member of the HR team, those 3, and Miss Juliana Demers was also among those 3. She was my top choice, and she was also the panel's top choice, and they ranked her as a top candidate. She does possess the credentials, she possesses extensive experience, and she has the leadership and the vision to lead the Human Resources Department for Mojave County. She is a problem solver, and she has demonstrated that in past roles and responsibilities. Mr. Demer is present here in the audience, Mr. Chairman and board members. I would like to introduce her to you, give her a chance to say a few things, and then give you a chance to ask her any question you may want to. Thank you. Ms. Juliana Demer, please come down.
Demers, welcome to Mojave County. Would you like to start by giving us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll open it up to any questions the board may have.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Juliana Demers. I do feel like very honored and for the trust that has been, entrusted in me for this key leadership position for Mojave County. I do believe, I'm Mojave County resident as well. I do believe the organization, I believe the vision that we're gonna bring forward to build this human capital, which is essential. Our employees are like really the essential components for the development of this county. And I'm here like looking forward to this journey that comes ahead of us. I do have, an extensive experience in administrative services for different organizations, like at county level and municipal levels. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, and I'm looking forward to bringing, my experience to Mojave County.
Thank you. I'd open it up to any questions or comments from the board members. Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, ma'am. I guess it's still morning. How long have you lived here in Arizona?
3 years.
I'm sorry?
About 3 years.
And you lived prior to that?
I live in California.
Is it okay?
California.
Where in California?
I live in Santa Clarita, and prior to Santa Clarita, I used to live in Torrance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm originally from Brazil, so I do have an accent in case somebody's curious.
Couldn't even tell. Other comments? Supervisor Martin.
Ma'am, welcome to our team. And this is a team. The whole county's a team. And you being in a position that you're going to be leading your team as part of the county operation. I have a question. I'm kind of a Reagan kind of guy, and I always say trust but verify. And I'm not questioning Sam here at all, but I just want to say in public, I want you verify that you were part of several committees, that you were interviewed not just by the county manager, but by a number of county department heads as part of the process.
That's correct. So I went into a selection process, a vetted selection process for minimum qualifications through the HR department, and then offered an opportunity for an in-person interview here with several department heads. It was, like over almost like an hour interview. And, following that, I was invited for a personal interview with County Manager Elters and, a member of the HR team. And, after that is when the process was completed.
Thank you very much for explaining that. I think it verifies that what Mr. Elters did, he didn't personally on his own pick you. You went through a vetting process by a number of county people, and you rose to the top, and he's presenting this to us. And like I say, from understanding what Mr. Elters did here, you are fully qualified for this position, and I hope you do very well at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And one more follow-up. Did you have an opportunity to observe the staff in the current department?
My current department, I'm going to be meeting with them right after this meeting.
Okay, so you haven't had a chance to really observe the operation and see what changes you'd like to see?
No, I have had conversations with, a few of the staff there, and I had an understanding. I had done my own research as I'm going through the process to what are the areas of opportunities that we have, to possibly, analyze and see if any changes are necessary. But my meetings with them are going to start after this confirmation today.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. You have an impressive resume. I might caution you on the use of the word human capital. I find that offensive personally because we're all individuals. It just kind of sounds like we're just cogs in the wheel of the machine, but it's not going to affect the way that I vote. But thank you, ma'am.
Of course.
Supervisor Lettman, any questions? Again, like my counterparts, welcome to Mojave County. The thing that has been most concerning to me organization-wide is we seem to have this long-standing, very high turnover rate. And I don't really fully understand all of the reasons for that. And so I hope that you and Sam will continue to roll your sleeves up, and hopefully we'll get to see that number, that percentage rate go down.
Absolutely.
With that, I would open it up to a motion. Approve the recommendation of the, okay, you've heard that motion? Do I have a second? Heard that motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Appear to have it. Do I have its order? Welcome.
Thank you.
Item number 34, discussion and possible action. Approve the adoption of BOS resolution number 2025-008, which requests the governor of Arizona to establish a constitutional Division 8 of the Superior Court in and for Mojave County. We do have one person signed up to speak. We'll do that, Jennifer Esposito, and then we'll get into discussion.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. Again, as someone who has previously and is currently litigating through the court system, the one thing that I have noticed is that the court system is pretty bogged down. I think this is a good thing if we can add an additional unit to the court and maybe take some burden off of the current judges and clerks and system that we have. I think this would be very helpful, and I just wanted to say that I support doing this, and thank you.
Mr. Anderson, Presiding Judge Moss, do you want to come up to the podium?
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board, County Manager Elters, thank you for having us. I've written a letter which I think describes everything in detail. I've also had conversations concerning this issues in the past. I'm more than happy to recap them or just answer any questions the board may have for me as may be your pleasure.
Very good, thank you. I'll open it up to discussion. Any questions from the board members? Supervisor Martin.
Judge Moss, thank you, and Kip, thank you. I had the privilege of going up and meeting with these two guys, and they explained in detail to me as an incoming supervisor what was going on. And it was truly, I didn't understand how it worked. But after meeting with Judge Moss and Kip, and them explaining the procedure and what really goes on and the need for this, I think that it's something that I'm not sure how we're going to fund it, but I can say that there's definitely a need for it because the facts are there and the numbers are there and the current judges look like they're just getting pounded. So I think if there's something we can do as a board to help that out, I think we ought to do it. Thank you.
Supervisor Borelli?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Supervisor. To that point, I've already reached out to our state delegation at the legislature to kind of pave the way for legislation for this if the board approves. If it does get signed by the governor, there is a lag time, obviously, from when the laws go into effect, and it should be able to give us some time to shore up and figure out how to be able to fund this extra division, because we're coming up to a hard red line. We're going to get in trouble if we don't, especially with the statistics on the last report I read. So we're already moving kind of in a positive way if we approve this.
Thank you. Supervisor Gould, any questions?
Yeah. Not so much a question. It is a question, I guess. In our conversation, gentlemen, you spoke that the state was going to pick up half of the cost of this additional position. Is that true?
That is correct. That's by statute. The county portion, we've also referenced our efforts to get it below half cost, because typically it's a $500,000 price tag, and the county's portion would be roughly $250,000. There has been a administrative order issued by the Arizona Supreme Court raising the state portion of the filing fees, which goes into the general fund. And if you count that as an offset, then it'll be just below $200,000 cost to the county to get the Division 8. Getting the constitutional division is the most cost-effective judge we can obtain in Mojave County, because commissioners are 100% paid by the county.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you,
Supervisor Lettman.
Okay, I had the privilege of meeting with all of you also, with all of the Superior Court judges, and I've also read the report that was recently issued, and in fact, we need more than just one Superior Court judge.
That's correct. We need, by our current math, just over 16. We have 11. Unfortunately, the hard logistics, if you were to vote tomorrow to give us 5 more judges, I have no place to put them. I don't have the courtrooms to put them. It's going to have to be a multi-year-long process to get these positions filled. I can currently seat 1. By the time the remodel is done in Phase 2A, I can seat a second. By the time, whenever that may be in the future, the remodel done is Phase 2B, I can seat another 2, but then I'm out of courtroom space, and where do I put that 5th? By the time we get there, with our current population increases and the caseload increases, by the time we get there, there's going to be a new number, and it's going to be even higher, because the work's not slowing down, it's only increasing. So right now, as a practical matter, I can take 1. In 6 months to a year, I can take a second. But I don't have any place to put numbers 3, 4, 5, or any additional numbers. There's no place to put them.
Okay, that's, I get that. I think as we go into budget planning, my request to your team would be that you tell us what you really need as we go into the budget. Our job is to find the money to fund that, and we may not be able to find that money. And if it's courtrooms, bailiffs, I personally think we need more prosecutors. We need more public defenders. And
I think there's an issue when it comes, I'll call it law and order, law and justice. I think there's a shortage across the county on that, and it's not just the courts, it's the prosecutors, it's the defense attorneys, it's everywhere. As a practical matter, I'm more than willing to sit down and author a report to you about the global problem within the court system and what price tags that's going to have attached to it. But as a practical matter, as of today, I can only ask for one because I can only put one to work. And in a year or 6 months to a year, I can put a second to work. And then, like I said, number 3, 4, 5, well, we need infrastructure. Phase 2B, other things, yeah, but that's not something that can be dealt with by the board in the next year.
I understand that, but I just think before we go into the budget session, I think we owe it to the citizens, just lay it on the line. What is it we really need in the law and order and enforcement universe of this county? And I think it's significant, and I think we all just need to know what that is. I certainly support this.
Yeah, I will say that from if you want a rule of thumb, this isn't exact, but for every judge, you're talking about $500,000 including staff.
Sure.
Okay, so it's the judge, the court reporter, the clerk, bailiffs. It's roughly $500,000, and that could vary from court to court. But when it comes to sheriffs, when I was on the board, I think I was told that every sheriff's deputy costs roughly $110,000 when it comes to retirement, EREs, and their equipment and cars and all the rest of that. So the algebra equation can be very quickly pointed out, and the county probably is upside down budget-wise, millions of dollars, if you want to look at it from a personnel standpoint. But I'm not here on all that. I'm here on Division 8, the most cost-effective.
I'm getting off a little bit off on it.
It's a cost-effective, short-term, gets us in the ball game type of fix.
I would like to invite them back at a later date to give us a more comprehensive presentation on what they really need.
Great. Manager Elders, do you wish to comment to the board on this item or no?
Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you. The judge and his admin chief, Kip, and I meet regularly. I am fully aware of the need and obviously the growth in the county that mandates or requires this action. I do, for whatever it's worth, understand this request, and certainly I'm with the board members, supportive of it. And just to make a point, when the presiding judge talks about phases 2A and 2B, as you all know, the courthouse, the brand new courthouse that was completed just a few years ago in 2021, had initially intended to have the remodel of the annex and the old courthouse. And as you, Mr. Chairman, and Supervisor Gould know, but the incoming board members may not, the annex and the old courthouse was phased to go in as one project due to funding constraints. We worked with the courts to have options. Option 1 was to remodel the annex. The board approved it just a few months ago. That is moving forward. So phase 2B, which is the old courthouse, is yet to be carried forward, and we look forward to working with the board to fund that and provide that space to the court. So we're on board, we're aligned with this request and support it.
Thank you, Manager Elders. Any other comments from board members, or I would entertain a motion? Supervisor Gould.
Motion to approve.
Second. For that motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you. Item number 35, assign board members to the various Mojave County boards and commissions and regional and state boards and commissions for the 2025 calendar year. The list of current appointments is in the backup material, so go ahead and pull that up. I think in past years what we've done is we'll just go down the line and take volunteers, nominations to fill for the 25 calendar year. So the first on this list of the Mohave County boards, that's true. Excuse me. We do have one person signed up to speak. We'll call up Jeff Esposito to speak, and then we'll go into that. Thank you, sir. Jennifer Esposito, you're signed up. You're on deck.
Good morning, still. I'm Jeff Esposito, 3211 East Snavely Avenue, Kingman, Arizona. All these boards are necessary and important. The most important one is the Mohave County Board of Health. It was totally rubber stamped by Jean Bishop for 4 years, and through the pandemic, it was a nightmare. She allowed them to do horrible things to us. All right, so we need the health department to be watched like a hawk because they are susceptible to being influenced by nefarious actors from the state and federal entities whom are susceptible to the private entity of the CDC, whom are susceptible to the ideologies of the evil World Health Organization that get their ideologies from the World Economic Forum, which right now it's very important to watch over this because they're planning another pandemic. The bird flu, if you're not aware of it, which is bullshit.
Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. Just to follow up with my husband's thoughts on this and having survived that whole era and whatnot, I would just like to ask Supervisor Gould if he would considering volunteering for that particular board because he has in the past shown an extensive knowledge of how these things work and has been an advocate for health freedom and a watchdog of the money and the grants and the things that flow through that department. And so I signed up to speak to ask Supervisor Gould if he would take a moment to consider if that would be a board that he would be willing to serve on and continue to stand up for the people of Mohave County and protect our rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so first is the Mohave County Board of Health. Prior, Supervisor Bishop did serve on that. Is there any interest from the board to serve in that capacity?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I'm willing to chair the Board of Health.
Okay, great. Any others, or is everybody good? Supervisor Borelli? Okay, great. Okay. So we'll put Gould as Board of Health for 2025. Corrections Officer Retirement Board. That was Supervisor Johnson. Do we have Supervisor Borelli?
Take that one and Public Safety Retirement Board.
So that would be the next two. Everybody okay with that, or you? Okay. So Supervisor Borelli for both the Corrections Officer Retirement Board and the Public Safety Retirement Board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
The Leo member, Mohave La Paz Local Workforce Investment Board, Supervisor Gould.
I was just going to say that I'm willing to give up the seat on the Workforce Development Board because I think I'll be busy with the Health Board. And it is pretty interesting because it's about job training is basically what it boils down to is jumping through hoops with the federal government to get the grants for job training and putting people to work that otherwise would sit on the couch until we shoved them off the couch.
It's an important,
If anybody else is interested in taking that.
important board. Thank you for your prior work on that. Is there any interest from our new supervisors for that? Supervisor Martin, are you interested in that board?
No.
Okay, I'll step up in that capacity. I'll do the Leo.
I don't know if the Leo, I thought the Leo comes from somewhere else. I thought that comes from
Oh, okay.
the police officers themselves.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. Leo. Yeah,
That doesn't necessarily have to be a board member. I think that was just a position.
Okay, that's true.
And Supervisor Bishop fit the requirements for that position.
Thank you for that. Mojave County La Paz Workforce Investment Youth Council. That was Supervisor Bishop. Supervisor Martin, are you interested in that?
Yes.
Taking over? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Self-Insurance Retention Employee Benefit Trust.
I will gladly take the Employee Benefit Trust.
Okay. Any other? Okay. Supervisor Letman, thank you for that. Regional and state boards. We have the Arizona Secure Rural Schools Coalition Advisory Council. That was Supervisor Angus. Supervisor Letman, are you interested in carrying that on in the District 2 office? Okay. Clean Colorado River Sustainability Coalition. Supervisor Gould, are you looking to continue that?
I can continue that unless somebody else really wants it.
CSA, Legislative Policy Commission. Supervisor Borelli.
I'd like to have the CSA legislative policy.
Okay.
Question on CSA, can we have an alternate or backup? I'm also CSA, but I would defer to.
I believe that's appropriate. I think our attorney just went to the restroom, but we can have, for CSA, the Legislative Policy Commission, we can have our designee, but we can also have an alternate. Yeah, we can do that.
That's okay with Supervisor Borelli.
Are you good with that?
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, if I may. So CSA, you have the board of directors, and then there is a policy, the LPC, which is the Legislative Policy Committee. Are you discussing at this moment the board, the CSA board, or are you talking about the legislative policy?
We're talking about the LPC.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mojave County Water Authority, I would be interested in continuing with that. I know Supervisor Gould was our alternate. Would you like to continue with that?
I can continue that.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Quad State County Government Coalition, that was Supervisor Johnson. Is there
I like
interest?
that one.
Got a question.
Sure.
Is that the ACO, or is this, I've never heard of Quad County. That's what, Arizona Association of Counties, what is that?
Attorney Esplin, can you explain that?
Sure. Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. What that is it takes in the four states. So it takes in, well, I think it's the counties. It's like San Bernardino County, Mojave County. It may even go to Washington County, Washington County, Utah. And then I think the one in Nevada, what's Vegas is Clark County. Okay. And what it does is it addresses mostly Western issues, environmental issues that deal with those particular areas. They've addressed things like the desert tortoise things, what are the trees, Joshua trees, that kind of stuff.
Ridge-tailed lizards. Bony-tailed chub.
You good fit for that? That's okay with everybody. We'll move to WACOG, Mojave County Advisory Council. I've served in that capacity for the last 4 years, both the Advisory Council and on the Executive Board. If there's any interest from any of our new board members to take over WACOG for Mojave County, I would relinquish that. Supervisor Martin, are you interested in that? You're not. Anybody else? Okay, well, I guess I'll stick with it then. Attorney Esplin, we've gone through the list. We've come up with a list for 2025. Do we need to have a formal motion, or?
I recommend just do a motion to approve the list as stated.
Okay, I'll make that motion to approve the list for 2025 on both the Mojave County boards and the regional and state boards as decided by the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
With that motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Item 36, discussion and possible action. Instruct staff to begin researching the process of implementing a zero-based budget. If it's okay with the item sponsor, I'm going to start with two people that have signed up to speak. First is Mr. Stephen Robinson. And Jennifer Esposito, you're on deck.
Stephen Robinson, Golden Valley. First, today is the 4th anniversary of one of the greatest travesties of history in our country on January 6, 2021 in Washington, D.C. Thank God I wasn't one of those that was arrested. I didn't do anything. But speaking to this issue, zero-based budgeting is a really difficult process. It's a artificial process. But I support anything that helps keep the costs of operations manageable. In the last 6 to 8 years, we've seen a 40 to 60% increase in the expenditure budget, and the revenue budget is even bigger. We have a lot more revenues than we did 7, 8 years ago. I've gone back to 2012 in studying it. So if you're going to address the issue of zero-based budgeting, we've already addressed the issue of having courts and increasing the number of judges. We have a serious shortfall in the number of deputies in our county, and I hope we can make that a priority. Sheriff Schuster said last June that he's 30 to 40 deputies short. And yes, that gets expensive and it's hard to recruit, but we need to really take a look at increasing the number of deputies. I've heard more than many number of complaints out in Golden Valley that they never get a response, or we'll be there next week to interview you after there's been a theft. So I encourage you to prioritize, in addition to the court system, the public safety for Mojave County. So that's what I have to say. I support zero-based budgeting, but understand it needs to be flexible. And yet there's a lot of departments that have a lot of fat and they want more. Thank you.
Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. This will be one of those rare opportunities where Mr. Robinson and I will agree on something. During the primary campaign for county supervisor, it was part of my platform that I supported zero-based budgeting. I think it's a very good thing. I know that in District 1, Sean Meisner also supported zero-based budgeting. I think that, you know, one of the prime responsibilities this board has is the fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, and I think that this is one way that we can begin to address it. You know, I mean, right now we pass a budget because if we don't allocate it, we can't spend it, but we can go back and amend it. But, you know, but I think there needs to be more direct accountability to this board, and I would just like to say thank you for putting this on the agenda for discussion. I think that at least having the discussion about how we could go forward with it, or having staff work to figure out the nuts and bolts of this, is a very, very good thing. And so I hope that you will all support at least investigating this possibility, because I think it would be of tremendous benefit to the taxpayers. Thank you.
With that, I turn it over to Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During political campaign season, we hear a lot of talk about zero-based budgeting. But we don't see a lot of implementation of zero-based budgeting in reality in the government. The state of Georgia does it, and the city of Phoenix does it. And basically what you're going to do with zero-based budgeting is you're going to start every department's budget at zero. and make them show why they need each and every dollar. You're going to take a look at what are mandated services and what are services that we choose to provide. And then you're looking at, are we actually meeting the goals for those programs? If we're going to put money towards a program, does it actually accomplish the goal? And I realize that to do this all in 1 year is too big of a bite to chew. That to do it in county-wide, we should probably choose a department that we can manage. That will also give us a baseline on how much staff time it's going to take to actually implement this fully across the county. But I put this on mainly so that we could have the discussion on do we want to proceed, and then how do we want to proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Lattman.
I completely concur with putting this on the agenda. It was part of my campaign platform also. The last very large company I worked for absolutely used zero-based budgeting, and it works. It gets us out of this, if I don't use it, I lose it syndrome. Okay, I think it is good to revisit this. I completely agree that zero-based budgeting is extremely difficult to implement, especially in large organizations. I endorse the idea of picking one or two departments. Let's figure out what it's like, what it's going to take. This is not an easy process, and I don't think it's something you could do countywide in 1 year, much less 2 years. But I concur. I absolutely want to move down this path.
Thank you. Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is going to be a good discussion. I mean, in government, especially in spending, there's nice to have, there's need to have. Starting from zero, you're right, it's going to be difficult because everybody's always in this pattern of this is the way we've always done that. But technically, it is the department heads to implement this and oversee and manage, and the county managers is over the directors. They should be pretty much having this mindset of justifying every dime they have and what they need first. With respects to using the city of Phoenix as an example, though, I probably disagree because they're always proposing to raise taxes in Phoenix, the city of Phoenix. So having been there for the last 12 years, I don't know if that's a good example. I think they put out the big facade about that, but we need to go back down to zero. And I understand about if we don't use it, we're going to lose it mentality, because when I was in the Marines, it's exactly what happened at the end of the year, the fiscal year with money in our budget, even ammo. I mean, it was crazy. This is going to be extremely difficult if we tie our hands of the directors, but also, I don't want to tie the hands of the county manager either. I think in principle, we should be having that mindset of start from scratch. Let's figure out what we need. We don't know how the economy is going to be. We don't know what our revenue is going to be. We don't know how the state's going to react to what they're going to put on us or what they're going to sweep from us after all the 12 years we tried correcting that in the legislature on these sweeps. We don't have that crystal ball. So we really need to be more fiscally responsible than the private sector. And so we should continue this discussion.
Thank you. Other comments?
Chairman Lienfelter, I have Luke Morning on the Teams. He'd like to speak if that's possible.
Sure, yeah, let's bring him up.
Okay, thank you. Luke, are you there? Oh, there he is. Just a moment. IT, can we have Luke brought up, please?
Finance Director.
Yes.
Couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Members, can you hear me?
And now, Director of
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a couple of thoughts on this. Supervisor Gould, you're absolutely correct when you say that zero-based budgeting has been around for a while. There's not a whole lot of different government entities that use it. A big part of that, as you've mentioned, is the difficulty in implementation. There are a number of kind of hybrid models, I guess. So you have zero-based budgeting in theory, and then you have zero-based budgeting in actuality. And so there's a couple of different alternatives. And what I would propose is that in 30 days or so that I bring back a presentation to the board and we kind of discuss zero-based budgeting in a strictly theoretical sense. We also discuss those alternative options. I think there's big differences between, as Supervisor Lettman mentioned, you know, a private for-profit business and how it would implement that, as well as a government agency and how it would implement zero-based budgeting or a hybrid of that. Because we do have a lot of mandated programs. Really, the start of zero-based budgeting is answering the question, what services do we want to provide? And at what level do we want to provide those services? And that's really a discussion where we absolutely need some board input on that. And so what I would propose is that we come back in 30 days and start that discussion. It is a lengthy process. I do have some concerns from finance as far as staffing, because it is a lot more work than the way we currently do our budget practice. I'm also looking into just how compatible it is with the new budgeting software that we implemented, the ClearGov budgeting software. That's a consideration as well. And so if that's amenable to the board, I would plan to bring this back in either the first or second meeting in February for a brief presentation and then further discussion.
Is he still with us? Director Mornian, are you still with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I just couldn't see you, so I thought you might have dropped off. So, you know, I've had the opportunity to work in private sector, nonprofit, public sector, and the successful instances where I've seen zero-based budgeting, they've always been, you know, these things are tied to performance measures, performance metrics, but those performance measures and performance metrics are first tied to an overall broad adopted set of strategic goals to make sure that everybody's playing off the same sheet of music. I also agree with all of my colleagues here on the board that we have to be fiscally conservative. And I think that we do a pretty good job, or at least the county does a pretty good job, but I think there's always room for improvement. You know, I think that if the county is going to go down this road and our board is going to go down this road, it would behoove us to come up with a list of strategic goals that performance measures and performance metrics can be tied to. And that we don't leave strategic goals to the individual divisions or departments. I think that would be important. Also, what do we do now? I know that we currently, for the last couple of years, have changed the way that the budget is presented into mandated services, essential services, and non-essential services. And we also, I believe, already require all, I'll say all, to come up with performance measures and metrics so that the board has an additional tool and some data to actually make some informed decisions about whether or not programs are working. I would ask that question to either Manager Elters or to your Financial Services Director.
Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you. We, just for the record, and I will share a thought or two and then turn it over to Mr. Morian if he wishes to add. We implemented in the last couple of years, as a result of our revenue stream and budget concerns, regular reporting on a quarterly basis. So we present a budget to the board. The board ultimately asks questions, makes some changes, but approves it. And then from there, on a quarterly basis, every department does actual versus approved budget and then reports it to finance. So we track it throughout the year as to where they're at versus what was allocated. And we do not support, we do not see any rush at the end of the year to spend whatever a budget is allocated. In fact, we look for budget savings to be recognized and reported back to the board as a starting point of the budget process and budget deliberation. So we have made, I would say, we have taken a significant number of steps in vetting those requests during the budget process. We meet with every department, we review every request, and then we proceed with composing and compiling a budget with the understanding that a balanced budget is what we're needing to present to the board at the end of the day. When there is a request for any new initiative or any new positions or any new capital, those are often placed in what we call a parking lot to look to advance the process substantially to a point where we can gauge the revenue versus expenses and get to a point where we can either fund them or not fund them, either way, to make the board aware of what means we have available and what expenses and requests we have from various departments. So to that end, Luke, I invite you to add any additional thoughts to what I just presented to answer the question that was presented by the board.
Thank you, County Manager Elters. Chairman Lingenfelter, board members, a couple other thoughts. As Sam said, we did implement 2 years ago this quarterly budget to actual analysis for the general funded departments. It's not across the board countywide. Our deficit issue is in the general fund, and so we implemented it for the general funded departments or those that receive a portion of their funding from the general fund. One thing that we implemented last year during the FY25 budget formulation process was providing the 5-year average for each budget line item to the departments and asking them, realizing that with inflation through COVID, post-COVID, it has slowed a bit lately, but just realizing that the effect of that inflation over those years had absolutely skewed those 5-year averages to where the more recent years were much higher expense-wise than the early years. But we're still looking at that 5-year average and asking all the departments to do everything they can to stay at or below that 5-year average. And so kind of shifting the mindset a little bit to at least where it's not, you had this much money in this line item last year, and that's the starting point, where we have asked departments to reduce a little bit. As some of the board members, the returning board members, are aware, we made some significant changes in how we budget for personnel around the county last year. We were doing everything that we could to pull out basically what we call budgetary slack, so any cushion in the budget that didn't necessarily have to be there. And so we changed how we were budgeting for our vacant positions, kind of standardized that so we wouldn't have a vacant position that, a 30-plus year employee vacated it doesn't get held in the budget at their rate of pay. That rate of pay is reduced to a standardized level via our approved salary schedule. We also fine-tuned the calculation based on employee anniversary dates for how we were budgeting for the annual merit increases, doing everything we can to pull out any extra. So there have been a lot of strides that were taken. Obviously, we still have some more work to do because we had to use some of the general fund balance to quote-unquote balance the budget for FY25. But I'd look forward to, as I said, bringing to the board kind of the start of that conversation. I completely agree with Chairman Lingenfelter that having some strategic goals, a strategic plan, defined benchmarks that the counties are going to be held, or the departments are going to be held accountable to, that definitely would go a long way in helping us with moving forward with a change to the budgetary process.
Thank you for your answer. I guess I would close with, it doesn't, despite the budgeting process that this board chooses to use, ultimately, it falls on our CEO, county manager, and the CFO, the budget director, to bring us, this board, a balanced budget every year. That's your job. And it doesn't matter as much as the budgeting tools that you use, but at the end of the day, you have to bring us a balanced budget.
I have a follow-up.
Supervisor Lettman.
Thank you. One more reason why zero-based budgeting is good. We had a presentation earlier from the presiding judge of the Superior Court that his group needs an 8th judge. In fact, zero-based budgeting would have almost forced that department to tell us that they actually, when they figure out what they really need based on their requirements, we would find out that they probably needed more than 8 judges. Ditto with the sheriff's department. And I would never recommend you start with the sheriff's department or the court system. But in fact, through zero-based budgeting, they would have to tell us what they really need to get their job done. And I like that. I endorse moving down this path completely.
Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, to that point, I mean, the courts have already basically identified the needs, what he needs to make his mission, to accomplish his mission, but they're paying clerks $16 an hour, and they're competing with In-N-Out. So they're hard to hang on to staff. So obviously, our court system right now is really getting right down to the rawhide of their operations. So it's being done technically, obviously with the courts. I would hope that the rest of the departments would do the same, but it's still kind of the purview of the department heads over the oversight of the county manager. I mean, the federal government is different. If you don't have the money by the end, if you have extra money at the end of the year, then you don't get it back the next year. You know, that kind of stuff. That's why they do this big spendex at the end of the year. But correct me if I'm wrong, when we approve of a budget, it's X amount of dollars, and we should be getting an update on how much we're spending and how much we have left in the reserves, because we should be saving money every year. And we should treat this next budget process like we're going to go back into another great recession. So we need to start looking at that mindset.
Good points.
Any other comments, or I would be open to a motion? You've heard staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
I would move that we instruct the finance director and the county manager to bring back in the month of February overview on zero-based budgeting as described by the finance director.
Okay, thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? Heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you. Item number 37, discussion and possible action regarding amending the Mojave County Board of Supervisors Rules of Order by placing the call to the public at the beginning of the Board of Supervisors meeting after administrative reports, with all rules of decorum staying intact. We have some folks signed up to speak, first being Scotty McClure.
Mr. Chairman, before you get into that, can I give you my explanation for
Sure.
what places on the agenda?
I'll pause you there, Mr. McClure. We're going to let Supervisor Gould give an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that this was a decision that should be made by the new board rather than the lame duck board that was here before. The board, every board I've ever been on got to make their own rules, and I think that we should not be bound by rules made by other people. So that's why I brought this back for discussion, possible action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I second it.
Mr. McClure, go ahead.
Yeah, is this a call to the public, or you don't have call to the public on this agenda at all?
Actually, we do. It's at the end. This is item number 37.
It is?
Yes, sir. You signed up to speak on item number 37. You have 3 minutes to speak on this.
When is the call to the public?
At the end of the regular agenda, sir. We're on item number.
What
30.
number is it? Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
Okay, so we're on item number 37.
So this is not call to the public.
But it's referring to call to the public.
Okay. As I stated last meeting here, there's no reason why. Latowski's here today. He usually on the TV up there. You guys have used that as an excuse before that he's taken up his time. Well, he can sit in his office and you have this TV up here. I've been using that when I was in the VA since 2012. It's not something new. I used to phone a doctor, a VA doctor down from Eureka, California to San Francisco about cancer. And I didn't have to travel 300 miles each way. He can sit in his office and still instruct his people. So you can't use that anymore. That all these supervisors are sitting here, they're sitting here for another reason because they're going to be called up for something. Don't use that again. This is just moving this to the end of the agenda. You've heard, we do this every year. We have to fight you guys to get it back to where it was. Us voters and taxpayers want it back to where it was. That's it. Every year we get it moved back. Somebody else, again, Buster Johnson, 4 years ago, when he was doing your job, brought it up again to move it back to the rear of the meeting. And then Hildy actually, I went to Hildy and she had talked you guys into bringing it back to where it was. Why can't you just leave it alone instead of whatever? I don't know why you put, Travis, you voted before to move it to the front of the public again. I don't know why you brought it up this time. It kind of bewildered me that this was going to appear before us. We, the voters here, and the taxpayers want it back to where it was.
Roy Hagemeyer.
Good afternoon, supervisors. Let me start with this, something that we should all be familiar with. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. We read in the Bible in Proverbs 31:8-9, it says, "Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and the needy." And that's often what we, the people, do. We, the people of this county, have been repeatedly deprived of our constitutional right by the Mojave County Board of Supervisors over the years since I have lived here. I have attended these meetings when I can, since the days of Byers, Sockwell, and Johnson, and if you remember those days, they were slightly tumultuous. They did more than their fair share of causing big issues with the public in this county. Sure, there are people that come up here and they rant about issues that this board has nothing to do with, but so what? Are they really hurting anything? But on the opposite side, this board has disparaged the public many times. People have been denied the right to speak when they legally were required to have that right. That should never happen. The prior chairman of this board openly admitted that she did not care one bit about the United States Constitution in this meeting, and she stopped people from talking many times. She hates we the people. Today, we are simply asking for what we are guaranteed under the Constitution, the right to speak, and to have it at a time that is reasonable. Making us wait until 5:30 in the afternoon, as happened last November, is unheard of, and it's absolutely wrong. 5 of us did just that. We stayed here till 5:30. Supervisor Gould was here, and it was because Hildy moved the call to the public to the end of the meeting. Mr. Martin has already chimed in on this. He made his stance known to Gene Bishop, who voted in opposition to his wishes at the last meeting, just to spite we the people. You have been duly elected to represent those who elected you in each one of your districts. Do that. Do as they desire, not as you desire. It's 2025, and it's time to get back to government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito Kingman. As I stated at the last meeting, when this was changed, I was more than willing to come and sign up to speak on every agenda item. And I'm good for my word, I did. And I can speak on anything. I don't get paid to come here. You do. Staff does. Staff gets paid to attend meetings, whether they're here in person or whether they're on the big screen. But the problem is, it's not that big a deal for somebody like me that only lives a short drive from this room. However, if you live in the south part of Havasu, you live up on the Strip, you live over in Bullhead or Mojave Valley, it's a lot longer drive to get here to sign up by 9:30 in order to speak. Now, maybe the thing that you want to speak about, you just want to put something on the record. Maybe it's not something you necessarily need on a future agenda. Maybe you just want to make a comment about current events. Maybe you want to publicly sound off against someone in county government, and you want everyone to hear about it and not do it just in a phone call or an email or an appointment in your office. But the problem is you're telling these people that they have to come and sign up by 9:30 and get up extra early and drive, and then wait until all the business is over just to say what they want to say for 3 minutes. 3 minutes for the people that you work for. Now, sometimes it's entertaining, and there are people at home who actually do tune into YouTube just to see what people say and call the public. And that's fair too. They're also taxpayers, and it's their time, and if that's what they want to say, then that's fine too. But by moving it to the end, and the lame-ass excuse that Travis used at the last meeting was, but my constituents on the Strip. Well, as anyone who knows Robert's Rules of Order is aware, the chairman has the ability to move any agenda item to the front if they need to. So, granted, if you have someone come from your district and they have a long drive to get there, you can finagle to have that agenda item that they need to speak on moved around in the agenda. But if somebody drives a long way, there's a pretty good chance they might also want to take advantage of their First Amendment right to use that 3 minutes to speak on another item that they didn't necessarily come for but would still like to address this board, especially if they're coming from up on the Strip. If I came all the way from the Strip to speak on one item, even if you put it at the front, I would want to take advantage of my driving time to speak at Call to the Public too. So do them the courtesy of letting them get both of those things out of the way and go home and watch the rest of the meeting on YouTube like a lot of people do. Do it right, fix it. Please, thank you.
James Jones. On deck is Stephen Robinson.
I'm James from the family of Jones here in Mojave County. I'd like to welcome all of you, and especially the new supervisors, to the new and improved 2015 session. And I want your approval on this issue to bring forth the freedom of speech first. As you can see, most of the people that came here today only had their own agenda in mind, and they left. There are certain things that they should be listening to, and I'd like to see the public get more involved in the Board of Supervisors as our local government, because we can learn from each other, as I mentioned the last time I spoke. If we speak and offend understand that we don't mean to offend. What we like to do is we like to bring about new issues and things that will make you think about what's going on. As public servants, you should be taking in any kind of questions, any kind of understandings that may not be of your thoughts. So I just wanted to let you know I approve of putting this issue first. Let the people speak, let everybody understand what's going on, and let's try and get more organization to the people that are in the public, because I see a lot of issues that were brought up today that I'm just listening and I'm going, those are the things I didn't know, and I think we need to work on. So I think there's some really good feedback available by listening to people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stephen Robinson.
First, to refer back to the previous agenda item, I noticed that this board has had a tendency to disapprove of real estate developments that would significantly increase the property tax revenues in this
Ask
county.
you to please stay on the item. Thank you, Steve.
But that was all I was going to say. I obviously support going back to the beginning of the meeting, and I even suggest that we consider having evening meetings once a month, because it happens in other counties that they have an evening meeting where more people can attend. So on that issue, I would really encourage you to look at that down the road of having an evening meeting. We tried having meetings rotating through the county, and that didn't work out well. I mean, COVID probably stopped it. But so simply put, some of the people that I'm going to be speaking to in the call to the public speak every time. One of them's not even here today, and I'm going to be addressing him and another person who is here about the call to the public. It would have been much better for me had it happened at the beginning of the meeting. So I encourage you to move it to the beginning of the meeting, give more people a chance to speak earlier and not have to wait for 2+ hours. Thank you.
Thank you. I will open it up to the board. Oh, I didn't see your... Wrong number on there. I don't see yours, but come on up. 38. Come on up.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Jeff Esposito, Kingman. The importance of an opportunity for the people to speak their issues and ideas into the official record should come first. Placing the burden of waiting for possibly hours to do so is immoral, insane, and unkind. It is also un-American and against any sense of what the new Republican Party stands for. Last I looked, all 5 of you claimed you were Republican. Senators Borelli and Gould should already know and support constituent participation in a timely manner. You other 2 new supervisors were privileged to be elected by some of the constituents in your district. If you vote against this, you should be recalled, as you will show that you could care less about them. I ask you, Chairman Lingenfelter, to humble yourself and return the call to the public to the beginning, unless there are special circumstances. Special circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Now I'll open it up. I'll start out the conversation. I appreciate everybody's comments today. I believe that the County Board of Supervisors meetings are first and foremost county business meetings. And under the public hearings, under the regular business items, we have Mojave County residents and others that have paid a monetary fee, to be a part of a business process. I believe putting those items first. A lot of those people, and I have received comments that are for keeping it at the end of the meeting from folks out at the industrial park and other places that are business minded. They want to get their item heard. They want to go back to work. And I just see this as good customer service, leaving it where it is. Thank you. I'd open it up to the board for discussion. Supervisor Lettman.
I think one of the best reasons to have it at the end of the meeting is today's meeting. It's gone very, very well. There were a couple of points brought up that I did want to address. One, which was a good point about the need to be here at a certain time point to submit a request to speak. And I think the cutoff basically is at the beginning of the meeting. And if you have the call to the public at the end of the meeting, we should be able to take those requests throughout the meeting right up to the call to public. I mean, that just seems like a simple solution to that problem. I believe having it at the end of the meeting is reasonable. And I just wanted to share, by the way, we're not the only county in this state that has it at the end of the meeting. So let me tell you about the counties who have called to public at the end of their meetings, mainly Republican-controlled, and I don't believe they are people who want to be against First Amendment rights. Yavapai County, end of the meeting. Navajo County, end of the meeting. Apache County, end of the meeting. Pinal County, end of the meeting. Graham County, end of the meeting. Gila County, end of the meeting. I think this is a reasonable request. Let's see how it works out. We can always bring it back and change it.
Supervisor Borelli? Supervisor Martin, did you have a comment?
Did you have a comment? Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to say this. You know, we hear talking about fees, and I understand what Supervisor Lincolnfelter is saying, but you know what? You, the citizens, you pay fees. It's called taxes. And if you want to speak, I want to hear you. And I don't want you to sit here at the end of the day. I want you up front. I want to hear it first. I want to hear it foremost. Now, Supervisor Rettman just gave us what the other counties do. What did you do in Bullhead City when you were on the city council, sir? You had it at the front. I checked with Bullhead City. I asked him, I said, Supervisor Rettman ever object to that? You never did. So I don't know why we're changing now, but it is your right. And I recognize that. And I know some of the comments that I've made, I've been here for over 2 years, sitting in that front row listening to this, and I agree, some of it is just, you just wonder. But that's your right. And as a supervisor, someone who I think my job is to represent you, and you're a taxpayer, and you have a right to speak. And I don't know what this board's going to do. I really don't. But I'll tell you this, I do want to go on record as saying that I, Don Martin, supports your right to speak at the beginning of a county meeting.
Thank you. Supervisor Borelli? Oh, Supervisor Gould.
Motion.
Supervisor Borelli, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a couple of comments. And Supervisor, you made up a good point. The chair accommodated somebody coming up to speak that hadn't even signed in on. If we need to make change the rules so the chair, the clerk can accept a late introduction of a request to speak, but on an agenda item, I think we can accommodate the chair. That is, matter of fact, that's the chair's prerogative. So, but to be accused of violating somebody's First Amendment rights, I think that's a stretch, because every agenda item was spoken on today. You have that right to address and redress government. At the end of this meeting, you have a right to redress government and bring up something that maybe we could put on the next agenda or two. But nobody is being denied their First Amendment rights. I find exception to that. So we have to govern. We have to govern. People are here to do business with this county. And I'd hate to see a developer come in wanting to do business with this county, see chaos in the morning, and then they just walk out because they don't want to deal with a government that's out of control. Seen that craziness in Phoenix. Okay? It's a whole new board here. Give us a chance to keep things going in the right direction. We can become more efficient and take care of the citizens' needs. As far as driving all the way up from southern Havasu to be here on time, I got here on time, but you know what? I'm sure my constituents would like a little bit more lead time to come in here to bring something up to the board if it's so inclined to do so that's not already on the agenda. So it's just my opinions.
Thank you. Laura.
Just wanted to let you all know, we have our deputy county clerk in the back. She was willing to take anyone's papers or anything like that at any time as of today, since the call to the public was moved to the back.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that call to the public be placed following the county manager's report and presentations and before the consent agenda. And if an item needs to be placed before call to the public, it requires majority consent.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion fails. Item number 38. Discussion and possible action. Approve compensation increase for District 5 Administrative Assistant from salary range E, $30.39 an hour, to salary range E, $35.20 an hour, effective January 11th, 2025. And approve District 5 budget transfer of $7,250 from the travel account to salaries and wages to cover increased personnel costs for the remainder of fiscal year 2024-2025. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need to move money inside of my budget so that I can uphold my employment agreement with my assistant. And that's, I'm asking for the permission to move that money.
Thank you. I'd open up to
And
the
the
board.
salary increase to do so.
Questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, so you're talking about transferring funds for travel, or is this a pay increase?
It transfers the money from travel to the pay increase.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chair, Supervisor Gould is, I don't understand, if she's entitled to, your assistant's entitled to travel pay, why would it be going into salary?
The board changed the rules. Originally, 6 years ago when I was elected, I have two offices. Actually, let's roll back to 12. In 2012, the county had made the threshold to go from 3 supervisors to 5 supervisors. At that time, after the new board was elected, Judge Moss, who was then Supervisor Moss, had 2 offices in the 5th District. If you look at, and I think that was a wise decision, the 5th District, half of the people live in the Fort Mojave area, the other half of the people live in Lake Havasu area. So he established the precedent of having 2 offices. That way the constituents don't have to travel an hour to meet with their county supervisor or county supervisor staff. At that time, when I was then elected in 2018, we asked the how to have my assistant travel from one office to the other office. And we asked for a motor pool car. At that time, they told us there was no motor pool car available. All the motor pool cars are in Kingman. Well, that wasn't going to work. So we said, then can we pay her mileage between the 2 locations to drive her personal vehicle? That was what they advised us we could do. So for 6 years, we did that. It came up as an issue in the last election. And was brought to the attention of the county manager. They took a look at that and found out that the IRS does not see mileage reimbursement in a permanent status as an untaxable reimbursement. So we went round and round with that. We also had an unclear county employer rule on whether or not we could pay mileage. The board adopted to narrow down how mileage was paid. This was the solution to that problem, was just to give my assistant a pay increase and the money's already in the budget, so that she can not take a payroll deduction because of the change in the board's policy.
Manager Alters, have you and your financial staff, do you have any comments on this item?
Mr. Chairman and board members, we've, as stated by Supervisor Gould, we looked at this matter when it did come up and shared our findings with the board. Going forward, my thought on this isn't really about the availability of fund or transferring fund. My thought on this is we have a system in place as far as compensating employees their worth and their value, and we've worked really hard to get our executive assistants to our supervisors to about same identical pay, because we do believe from seeing their resumes and witnessing their activities that they're all qualified and they do a superb job in meeting the supervisor's needs. To that end, we wanted to ensure that they were all equally compensated. What this will do is it will blow a hole in that effort, and it will change it substantially. And that if I have a concern with it, it would be with that aspect of it, because right now we have 5 districts and 5 district admin being compensated appropriately and about the same level, fairly close, not to the same pennies, but not far from that. And this would change that makeup, and I think it would be viewed as not so favorable by other county employees as well. That's really, thank you for asking me, and that would be my thoughts to the board.
Supervisor Borelli.
Yeah, I guess for some clarification. So the mileage was taxable, so we're going to shift this to basically the personal payroll, because it's going to change the tax bracket. I mean, you're paying taxes on the mileage, you can be paying taxes on the salary or compensation. Either way, you're going to be paying taxes. I'm confused on why we're doing this cost shift around, and it looks to me like just a pay raise.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Borelli, this is the way that was put up forward by the finance director. I actually requested a motor pool car for this, and they told me that that was going to be problematic, which I don't see that either, and told me that he would prefer to go this route. The problem is my assistant is now having to cover her own gas for her drive between her one duty station to the other duty station.
Right. To that point, when meeting with HR on behalf of my assistants, I was told if my assistants wanted to collect mileage, they had to go through a defensive driving course or take the class. Why can't the county provide an assistant with a government vehicle, county vehicle?
Is that question?
Yeah, that's a question.
Somebody
Yeah.
else?
Supervisor, no, I guess Manager Alters, do you want to field that question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. It really boils down to, board members, that the county employees commute to work on their own time and dime. That's the policy that is in place. When presented with this challenge, as this practice, and in the lack of evidence that the board had in the past approved such practice, we brought it to the board, and we provided the board 3 specific options. One of them was to make an exception to the policy and allow this to continue, and the board was not interested and did not approve it. So it really boils down to consistently, and nothing against District 5 supervisor or admin assistant. This is just county position, and as the county manager, it's my job to ensure that board policies are carried forward consistently and fairly. And the county policy that is in place now is that employees commute to work on their time and on their dime, and unless a vehicle is assigned for special duties and that list is approved by the Board of Supervisors. That's where we are and that's where we stand. And as far as the practice, the other practice that the board heard, considered, and made a decision on was this issue of the IRS component of this. It's clear in our mind that the practice that was in place would establish a taxable income category. We made that clear to the board. Again, there was a discussion as to what direction the board wanted to go with, and the board opted to just not consider that category, that practice, which is an employee is not given an exception. An employee shows up to work in their vehicle and on their time. They serve the function and the role that they hired for, and then they, at the end of the day, they return home. So I will, if you would like specifics as to what we did as far as our review and finding, I could either ask our chief financial officer to go through those options in more abbreviated form, but nonetheless, so to refresh your minds, or we could further, explain it, write to you about it, provide you a report, whatever it takes, just to refresh everyone's memory and for the benefit of the incoming board members, so they know the history of what we did and what we recommended to the board and what action the board took. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I hope I answered the question, but I don't know.
Supervisor Borelli?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with an employee going to the office. They're on their own dime. But with respects to District 5 supervisor, that assistant, his staff was going to the Fort Mojave. She drives to work from lives in Fort Mojave, went to that office. But going from one office A to another office B, why couldn't this person use a government vehicle?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Borelli, I am not asserting that can't happen.
Okay.
That is one of the options that was presented to the board, if I recall correctly, and the board was not interested in it. So if it's something that, it really boils down to, without getting too much in the weeds, it boils down to, is this an unusual set of circumstances or is this an ongoing? We today, every day, have employees that show up to work in their vehicle, travel from one office to the next. They either travel in a county vehicle or they travel in their vehicle and they're reimbursed. This is an ongoing, has been for at least 3 years. And the question was, does the board want to continue? Does the board want to make an exception and continue this practice? And that's where the board, that's what the board decided on. And again, if the board wishes to reconsider, it's the board's call. I'm just sharing with you what we've been through to answer the question.
Thank you. I'm going to pause there. We got 3 people signed up to speak. Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman again. The problem in this situation is that the county policy for employees was not in compliance with the Internal Revenue Service. That's a staff's issue. That's a staff problem. It's a staff mistake. And it unfortunately affected 2 county employees, apparently, who through no fault of their own thought they were in perfect compliance with everything, and then got left with a rather large tax bill from the Internal Revenue Service, that despite the fact that it was the county's mistake, the county left those employees on the hook, and if I'm not incorrect, I believe one of them sued the county for it. And that was actually the proper thing to do. The county should have covered the mistake. So the question now is, what do you do about the mistake going forward? Do you give the assistant a car to go, as you said, from Office A to Office B? Or do you increase the salary and try and find a way to financially make it whole? Now, I've been watching these meetings, even when I lived in La Paz County. So the TV district, by the way, does broadcasts down there. At least it used to. And so in all the years that I've watched this, about a decade or so now, I don't believe that I have ever seen a situation where members of this board have micromanaged each other's budgets. Pretty much the 5 of you set your budget for your department. You're your own department head. When budget time comes around, you're like, I need to pay this employee this, I want 1 employee, I want 2 employees, I want 10 employees. That's your prerogative as the department head. If Supervisor Gould wants to increase his employees' pay, that's his prerogative, not staff who screwed this thing up and didn't catch the mistake. So, either way, fix the problem. Make a motion to approve the details of a document assigning this person a car, or, make it right in a financial thing. The problem is you don't want to have to hire 2 separate assistants for 2 separate offices, because you have a county employee who has been working in that district and in that department, who has a relationship with constituents, who has statutory knowledge of their issues and of the District 5 issues and things. So, yes, there are 5 supervisors. Yes, 5 supervisors hire 5 assistants. And yes, those employees drive to work. But only one of those needs to drive between 2 greatly distanced locations. I know I've driven this county many times, and I know how far it is to drive from one office to the other. I know where both offices are located. So, the county screwed this up. The previous board decided not to compensate the employee. Now you're getting sued. But just figure out some way to make this thing right. And I agree with Supervisor Borelli. Why can't the county employee have a car? But if the county employee can't have a car, or you're not willing to do that, then at least fix it in the finances, because I would hate to think that at budget time, the 5 of you would start micromanaging each other. Although you do have the prerogative to do that, you can vote down each other's budgets, just saying, it's possible. I would actually like to see that happen. I would pop some popcorn for that and write about it in the newspaper, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you have the opportunity to fix that, and I hope that you'll do so. Thank you.
Scotty McClure.
Scotty from Bullhead. I wasn't going to comment on this, but I just can't believe this. I do have a dog in this fight. She's my campaign manager. And for this county to not back their employees up, you 5 people up here, to not back up any employee you have, you're a bunch of cowards. Even Ryan Esplin told you guys to settle the IRS bill with Judge Williams. He's told to go from one court from Bullhead to another one appeal, and somebody's sick, got the flu, whatever. You should pay him mileage for that, whether he's got to go to Havasu or wherever. But no, we got stupid policies we don't know anything about. She had a car approved, Sonny. She was going to park it inside the new sheriff's department, inside the gate at night, and travel to there. But no, we come up with some other rule that Sam found out we can't do that either. So she did have a car. You need to pay her for this. And you will be going before, having this before your faces again, because she's hired a law firm out of Phoenix, and they're not cheap. Ryan said settle before. I don't know why you can't give her a car either, but that's going to take an action again for you guys to fix the rules and protect your employees out here. You're not protecting your employees. If I worked for you, I'd feel like I got stabbed in the you know what.
Jeff Esposito.
I think
Okay, very good.
Chairman Lingenfelter?
Yes.
Director Moranin is still on, or would like to address you.
Bring him up.
Okay, thank you.
Director Mornian.
Chairman Lingenfelter, board members, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things about county policy when it comes to mileage and when the county reimburses mileage and when it doesn't, because it's very much relevant to this conversation. And so, Supervisor Borelli asked, why don't we compensate when employee is going from work location A to work location B? In this case, it really comes down to what does the IRS consider to be commuting mileage. The employee in question has a set work schedule where she works at one office location 3 days a week. She works at another office location 2 days a week. On those days when she works in Lake Havasu, she does not go into the office in Fort Mojave and do a little bit of work and then drive to another office location. She goes from her home to Lake Havasu, works, returns home. On the days she works in Fort Mojave, it's the same. Leaves her home, goes to the office, returns home. And so in those situations, the IRS considers these to be commuting miles. They are commuting miles. The established county policy, which the board has approved, is that the county does not compensate employees for commuting. And the IRS standards are it's okay for an employer to compensate for commuting mileage, but when it does so, they're taxable fringe benefits. When this came to my attention earlier this year, it had been going on for roughly at least 4 years. IRS regulations require that we go back 3 years, and so that's what we did. We figured out what the tax bill would be. That was brought to the board. As Sam mentioned, when this was discussed in October, there were 3 different actions that were proposed as part of that agenda item. One of them was how much of that tax bill that the county would pay, whether it was just the employer side of the back taxes that were owed, or whether it would be the employer and the employee side of it. The board at the time voted to pay only the county's portion of it. The second part was to amend policy, as has been discussed, to clarify so that there would not be the ambiguity that led to the situation in the first place. And the board did approve that new policy. The third option, which our county manager also mentioned, was the board was given a choice whether they would like to make an exception going forward to allow the District 5 assistant to continue to commute and to make an exception that she could submit for the reimbursement of those commuting miles. She would have been the only employee in the county that exception would have applied to. Now, that's basically where we are. When this was brought to my attention for today's board agenda, the question that was posed to me was, what would it cost for a salary increase to essentially make this employee whole? Previously, she was receiving mileage reimbursement for the 2 days a week that she commutes to Lake Havasu from Fort Mojave. She was not being taxed on that. We know that can't happen going forward. And so essentially what she was netting in take-home pay before, we did a calculation of what would the hourly equivalent wage be so that she basically had the same net take-home pay as she did prior to all of this coming to light. And so that is what is before the board today. I am not in support or against this. I was simply asked to provide the calculation for what would be the equivalent hourly wage increase that would be required to result in the same net take-home pay for the employee. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Attorney Esplin, I've got a question, or maybe to Supervisor Gould, but I've heard, is there a current lawsuit pending?
Chairman Lingenfelter, what has been submitted to the county, to my knowledge, is a notice of claim, or not a notice of claim, a request for settlement. Excuse me, let me back up. Not a notice of claim, a request to offer, or an offer to settle. And that's all that's been submitted to the county, to my knowledge. Whether a lawsuit has been initiated or not, I don't know.
And that's related to this item?
Yes.
So my question is, if this is approved today, does that make that claim go away?
No, it will not make it go away. It's not a claim, it's an offer to settle.
An offer
Sorry.
to settle, right. Well, I certainly don't want to micromanage another supervisor's office. You know, half of the population that I serve in District 1 is on the other side of the Grand Canyon. A lot of people think that Mojave County ends at the Grand Canyon. That's not true. But I've never had a second office, and it's worked fine with me, but I don't care how another supervisor runs their office. It's up to them. I'd prefer to give them a vehicle to go from duty station A to duty station B, rather than the wage increase, but that's just me. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Just give her a car to go back and forth. Other supervisors? Supervisor Letman.
So let's go back to the request. I completely agree that we should not be micromanaging your budget. It's your dollars, your people, and I respect the concern you have about taking a administrative assistant to $73,000 a year plus benefit. I get that. I think that's Supervisor Gould's call. And I hope we remember that, because I'm going to have some requests regarding the operation of my district office. Okay, but I think you have my support, but I am concerned on the impact of the other administrative assistants. Just as a side note, my part-timers who are coming in will be getting paid $23.90 an hour. Now, I don't expect the other district offices to be held to that. There's a reason for that. And they'll go up over time. But you have my support on this.
I'd have one question for Supervisor Gould. Is this increase only for the time period that would help your assistant to get whole again, to recover the money that she's obviously out from the IRS? I mean, it was like $8,000 to $10,000, wasn't it, that she was now all of a sudden personally liable for?
That's not included in this. This is just the equivalent of if she was to receive mileage from, say, today through the end of the budget year.
Okay.
So it's not it's not recouping any of that other issue.
And then we still have a claim against us out there. Thanks.
But,
Supervisor Borelli?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but wait a minute, it's been clarified. This is not a case where she goes from her home to the Fort Mojave office, and then from there comes to Havasu once a week. This is going from her home to Lake Havasu once a week. So this is where all the mileage.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, she drives past when she leaves her home, she's driving past the Fort Mojave office on her way to Havasu. And she was never paid mileage between her home to anywhere. The mileage was between the Fort Mojave office and the Lake Havasu office.
Mileage has always been taxable, and because I got nailed with that when I was in the Senate. Our DM, everything was taxable. So you're gonna get paid taxes on your mileage. You're gonna pay taxes on your income. I mean, either way, it's all taxable. This is just amazing.
Yeah, we're not trying to dodge the taxes. I'm trying to make sure that my assistant still makes the salary that I negotiated with her when I hired her.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to do. I can only go by what HR tells me to do.
Yeah. So
as far as them not covering the income tax, you have a certain expectation as an employee that your employer knows what they're doing. And if they're not taxing part of what they're calling salary, if they're not taxing that, and then 3 years later you come back and say, oh, by the way, you owe us $7,000 for the taxes that you didn't pay on something that we didn't tell you was taxable. That's kind of the boat that we're in today.
Okay.
But all I'm trying to do with this is figure out a way that I can have a professional assistant, that she can at least make the salary that I negotiated with her when I hired her 3 years ago. That's all I'm trying to do with this. I don't see the problem with putting an asterisk behind Miss Medina's name that says Miss Medina's salary is higher because she's required to provide the gasoline and wear and tear on her car to drive between two duty stations. because that's really what we're asking.
Right, you're trying to make everything, you're trying to make her whole, I
That's
understand.
all I'm trying to do is make her whole. We're not trying to dodge anything. I'm just trying to get her back to where we were before this became an issue.
Supervisor Gould, would a county car to travel between duty stations, would that satisfy her?
I believe it would. The downside to that is you have increased liability to the county. She's going to be driving a car as we can write her a check, and then it's her own liability between the two. But that was really the only thing that I can. And you got a car that's going to sit effectively at the sheriff's department substation in Fort Mojave, for 5 days a week, and be used 2 days a week. But I think either one of them would satisfy both her and I. Did you say the substation? The substation.
I'd ask all the board members to go through the chair so we don't have two people talking at once. Thank you. Other comments? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Madam Clerk, I changed my vote from a aye to a nay for purposes of reconsideration.
Just to let you know, I would be in favor of a call. I support that. Call to the public. Penny Pugh from Congressman Gosar's office. Penny, Happy New Year. We want to say thank you for being here this morning with us and attending the full meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, board, staff, and most importantly, the constituents that are behind and took the time out of their day to come out and participate. It's awesome. Just want to say Happy New Year, remind everyone that we will be holding office hours remotely again, as we have in the past. Sometimes at supervisor's office, sometimes at city, sometimes at chamber. And if you have any questions on federal matters and you don't know where to go, holler at us because we're there. You can't come to our Goodyear office very often because it's about 3 hours. And we only have one office for obvious budget reasons, but appreciate the opportunity to serve for another 2 years. And the congressman is excited. And of course, they certified the election today for President Trump, and that's an awesome thing that we get to go forward for the next 4 years and try and get this place back in shape. So I appreciate it, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wayne Hollins?
Wayne Holland from Golden Valley. I'd like to congratulate everybody that's either got elected or re-elected to the board this year again for the next 4 years. First of all, I want to talk about trash again, of course. Last year I brought up the thing with the unsecured loads and non-tarp loads and all the trash that you can follow all the way from Kingman out to the landfill, which is also not only ugly but dangerous, especially when you're driving down the road and a mattress flies out at you. So we did put a sign on their bulletin board saying that, hey, there's a $1,000 fine for unsecured load. I go to the dump several times a week. I haven't seen anybody out there getting tickets that's not tarped. I see just as many people with untarped loads, and there's still crap flying out, landing on and near the roads. Last year, just for Golden Valley, the cactus cleaners, we picked up 125,000 pounds of trash and tires from mainly that area, a little bit in Kingman. We helped Dolan Springs, which is not in that total. And I've got another guy that works with us and started his own 501c3, and he did another 100,000 pounds plus 21 some vehicles around the county. So last year we had 22 prosecution requests by erase. I don't know how many of them went forward, what status they were, felonies, misdemeanors, but we gave out 55 5-day notices. Now we got 4 or 5 officers out there, and this is just 4 or 5 people picking up this amount of trash. We either not doing that very well of policing that up and following up and prosecuting the people. And I think there was something that went through last year that we were supposed to increase the fines, and then that ended up not taking effect because somebody dropped the ball and nothing happened, so we had to revisit that. So I think there's some improvement to be made. And then the other thing I want to talk about is water. $41 million we got for ARPA funds the last year or so. We spent some money on some distribution systems improvements and upgrades. We didn't spend a dime on putting water into the ground by the people and teaching them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Esposito. Jeff Esposito, you're on deck.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito. Kingman, happy Insurrection Day, in quotation marks, meaning not really. I'd just like to point out that we have American citizens who've been denied their due process rights, who were politically punished for expressing their free speech. You know, it's now been exposed that Capitol Police opened doors and let them in, and you know, I was actually thrown off of, it was Twitter then, the very next morning because I shared videos being streamed in real time, and I watched what was happening in real time. And for that, the former social media platform permanently banned my account because they wanted those videos taken down. They didn't want people showing people what really happened that day. They didn't want people to know that, oh, look, there's an Antifa member posing with the guy with the shaman hat on and things like that, you know. So I just like to point out that that the tourists behind the velvet ropes taking selfies occurred 4 years ago today. But in 1954, armed Puerto Rican nationalists wounded 5 members of Congress in a shooting spree. In 1971, the radical left Weather Underground detonated a bomb in the North Wing restroom that caused some damage. And then in 1983, a Marxist-Leninist terror group exploded a bomb that caused extensive damage to the Senate side of the building, which was arguably the worst damage done to the Capitol. So, you know, I guess insurrection is in the eye of the beholder. Terrorists are whoever someone wants to call them out as or whatever. But I look forward to President Trump pardoning those people, because in order for it to even be trespassing, you have to go somewhere you're not supposed to be. You have to know you're not supposed to be there. And you have to be told to leave and refuse to leave. And none of those things were satisfied. Those people thought they were allowed to go in. The other thing I wanted to mention was, since we have a new board and not everybody was paying attention to what happened last year, there was an ordinance change regarding chickens and roosters, which was designed to fall in line with the state law for backyard chickens. And the thing that I didn't get to point out at that meeting, because I figured why bother, we have a new board coming, is that if the rooster ban, which was not required, affected anyone who was previously allowed to have roosters, those roosters would be grandfathered in. I just want to state that on the record. And so the county really has no idea of who had a rooster or who didn't have a rooster or whatever. So they have no way to enforce the rooster ban. I just wanted to let you know. Thank you and Happy New Year.
Jeff Esposito.
Jeff
Esposito Kingman, I have roosters. Come take them. All right, the notion of good governance has become the buzzword these days in the wake of globalization. Good governance is commonly described as a style of governance that is efficient, effective, responsive, corruption-free, and citizen-friendly for ensuring people's trust in government and promoting social harmony, political stability, and economic development. Good governance is strictly connected with institutionalized values such as democracy, observance of human rights and rule of law, and greater efficiency within the public sector. The current concern for good governance and building public trust in administration has generated the need for following ethical and moral principles, which emphasize on justice, equity, conscience, and moral unambiguity, and give a prominent place to the idea that public servants are ultimately responsible to the people. In seeking to maintain high standards of ethical behavior by public administrators, agencies rely on a wide variety of enforcement mechanisms like codes of ethics, legal regulations, professional rules, and ombudsmen to oversee ethical standards. Though all have proved useful in some respects, none can be considered fully satisfactory, at least not in the sense that it alone can be expected to ensure organizational morality. Codes of ethics need to work hand in hand with proactive managerial strategies, which in turn need to be bolstered by external checks on behavior. We, the county inhabitants, are your external checks. We are awake and watching. We will ensure that you are accountable. The last 4 years was filled with bad decisions, bad directions, and I had high hopes because 3 new board supervisors. I mean, I really had high hopes. And boy, the only one that came through for me was my wife's competitor, Don Martin. Congratulations. You are 100%. You, Senator Borelli, have replaced Wilma.
James Jones.
Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you to our new and improved 2025 session. You may remember that last election that the Cochise County Board of Supervisors refused to certify the results because they were shady and tainted. They were threatened by jail, with jail, and if they didn't certify the election. So under that threat, they certified it. The Mojave County Board of Supervisors received a letter from the state attorney, Chris Myers, stating the board could face charges. Okay. The rural official canvass of any county has not been received by this deadline. Secretary of State must proceed with the state canvass without including the votes of the missing county. So breaking news. A federal judge in Arizona has ruled that the Democratic Secretary of State cannot certify the results of the 2024 election if any counties without certification do the fraud. And here's his decision. His plaintiff alleged that the plain term of canvass provision requires the Secretary to nullify a county's vote of the County Board of Supervisors fails to timely canvass. Considering the above, the court finds that the plaintiff has plausibly alleged a severe burden on the right to vote. The right to vote is fundamental. And the Judge Michael T. Lombardi. This ruling is a game changer because it empowers counties to halt the certification process if fraud occurs in November. Bravo to the judge. There is a big issue here. It means that you can't shove another fraud down our throats without investigations. No certification without integrity. So bravo to the judge. Now, the flag that you sit in front of is a military flag. and it gives the body of the government jurisdiction both in military and UCC, which is Universal Commercial Code rule. The golden fringe flag only stands inside military courts that sit in a summary court-martial proceeding against civilians. For this county to function as a constitutional government, it is mandatory that the gold fringe flag be replaced with an American flag without military gold fringe or an eagle on it. Jurisdiction's a big problem. What jurisdiction are you under? Military and UCC. Thank you.
Stephen Robinson.
A couple people won't be too happy with this. 1 year ago, then Chairman Angus proposed a resolution supporting the legislature's joint and unanimous resolution supporting Israel's right to exist and defend itself against terrorism. 3 people opposed that, including Greg Beffert, Jennifer Esposito, and James Jones. Jennifer stated that it wasn't the county's business because it's a national issue. Well, so was Second Amendment sanctuary status is a national issue, yet she didn't speak up in opposition of that. Now, Mr. Beffert opposed it on a more basic, perhaps questionable reason. He apparently believes that Israel does not even have the right to exist. Both he and James Jones opposed what they call Zionism. Further, he made the claim about there's a difference between good and bad Jews. Specifically, dark-skinned Jews from the Middle East are good, while light-skinned Jews from Europe are bad. Isn't race-based discrimination the very essence of racism? Zionism, simply put, is the establishment of Israel in their ancestral homeland. It began with Balfour's declaration, Britain's Balfour Declaration in 17, recognizing Israel's right to have a homeland. Then that led to Hitler and Arab world attempt to eliminate Israel off the face of the earth. However, real Zionism began 2,500 years earlier in the 6th century. The prophet Ezekiel, directed by God, spoke out in chapter 37, the Valley of Dry Bones. I'm just going to read a few quick quotes. Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say, our bones are dried up. Our hope is gone. We are cut off. God said, my people, I am going to open your graves, bring you up from them, and bring you back to the land of Israel. I will settle you in your own land. I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them up from all around and bring them back into their land. They will be my people, and I will be their God. In short, if you are opposing Israel's right to exist for any reason, you're fighting against God himself. And I want the people in this county, because I know a lot of them that would have been here would have agreed with exactly what I said, because we believe that while they're God's chosen people, the Christians have been grafted into the body of believers that is represented by Israel. So I want us to realize that that was a legitimate reason for that resolution, because if we can't support the right of people to defend themselves, especially, in fact, this reason, God created this nation to bring about the people of Israel. That's my belief, and that happened in 1948. Thank you.
Scotty McClure.
Scotty from Bullhead. Well, Rick, this 3 minutes is going to be all about you, from me. I've been waiting for you to take the oath of office. Now you're held to a higher standard, and Ryan needs to explain something to you. Get out of my face. Been waiting for you to take the oath of office. I remember this ugly mug shot in the paper that I paid for. Want my refund back. But your 130 donors don't jive with the stuff you put up and signed up at the elections office. You also didn't disclose some of the meetings that you had, your benefits, to raise money. You didn't disclose them at all, let alone any donor that donated $1 like a dumbass as they were.
I gotta ask you
Excuse
to
my
use-
language.
Use your inside voice, please. Yes.
What you did to me last meeting here, where you popped up in my face back there, so you got out of camera range. You know where the cameras are. You and Hildy and the mayor of Bullhead know how to use your little BS where you're hidden from the camera views. And for you to pop up like that, where I was talking to a reporter, and I was going to talk to a couple of my committee people. I am going to run against you in 4 years, by the way. And for you to do an election interference like that, where you pop up like that, by the way, we had a 4-year-old little girl with us. If it had been a 4-year-old little boy, yeah, you would have liked that. And by golly, the Republican Party in this town needs to take the R away from you. You were never a Republican. You never will be a Republican.
All right. Just keep your voice down, okay?
I'm hard of hearing. I have a handicap. If you can't hear, then turn your thing down.
You keep shouting, I'm going to be hard of hearing too. Stop.
Anyway, Lippman, I'm going to go after you legally. Not threatening you. Not going to, do whatever. I'm done with liars. You are a libertarian, not a Republican. You're just a scumbag. Anyway, I'll be doing some paperwork, take them upstairs, and then I'm going to the Attorney General.
All right. We're adjourned. Thank you.